Silence holds more power than words. Silence is one of the most misunderstood yet devastatingly powerful forces in human interaction. We live in a world where people rush to fill every empty space with noise, chatter, or explanation, believing that words equate to influence. Yet the greatest leaders, negotiators, and visionaries know that silence is not the absence of power. It is its purest form. When you resist the urge to respond immediately, you shift the dynamic of any interaction. Silence creates tension, and tension creates control. The one who can sit comfortably in silence commands the moment because others will feel compelled to fill it, often revealing more than they intended. In ancient traditions, silence was revered as a gateway to wisdom. Monks, sages, and warriors practiced the discipline of holding their tongue, knowing that silence sharpens perception. While others reveal their weaknesses through careless speech, the silent observer collects information, measures the room, and gains the advantage. Billionaires and powerful negotiators understand this deeply. They use silence to unsettle, to draw out truths, to make others squirm until they surrender more than they had planned. Silence also carries a psychological weight that words cannot match. A pause after a question can force someone to spill secrets. A lack of immediate response can turn desire into obsession. A calm, measured silence during conflict disarms aggression and asserts dominance without a single raised voice. It unsettles those addicted to validation because silence denies them the feedback they crave. But beyond influence, silence reveals strength. It shows mastery of self, the refusal to be baited, the unshakable discipline to speak only when it matters. Words may inspire, but silence bends the will of others. Those who master silence never need to shout because their absence of noise speaks louder than the loudest voice. Wealth flows to those who master patience. Patience is the hidden lever that moves the world of wealth, yet it is the quality most despised in a society obsessed with immediacy. The impatient chase quick wins, loud trends, and instant gratification, while the patient quietly build empires that last generations. True wealth, financial, social, or spiritual, does not rush toward those who demand it. It flows like a river toward those who have learned to wait, endure, and let compounding work in their favor. Every billionaire knows this truth. The market rewards time, not haste. Investments grow not in days, but in decades. Relationships mature not in weeks, but in years. And mastery of a craft demands endless hours of unseen labor. Patience is not passive. It is an active form of discipline. It is the art of resisting the seduction of shortcuts and holding steady when others panic. In silence and restraint, the patient accumulate advantages invisible to the restless. Patience breaks opponents without lifting a finger. In negotiations, the one who waits longest extracts the greatest concessions. In competition, the one who endures beyond the breaking point inherits the field. In life, those who can delay gratification gain access to treasures denied to those who demand everything now. There is a reason ancient wisdom often compared patience to gold. Both are rare, both are tested in fire, and both hold their value across ages. The impatient squander opportunities by leaping too soon. The patient harvest when the fruit is ripe. Wealth is not chased. It is magnetized by those willing to wait while the world exhausts itself. Attention is the most valuable currency. In a world drowning in information, attention has become the rarest and most expensive currency of all. Money can be earned, lost, and regained, but attention, yours and others, is finite, fragile, and irretrievable once wasted. Billionaires and power brokers understand this better than anyone. They don't just accumulate wealth, they command attention. The spotlight, whether feared or adored, bends reality around those who can hold it. Every empire begins with focus. When you control your own attention, you harness the ability to direct energy with precision. Distractions are the thieves of destiny, pulling you toward trivial pursuits while your future rots in neglect. Masters of power guard their focus ruthlessly, cutting away noise because they know that scattered attention produces scattered results. Wealth flows to those who channel their mental energy like a laser, burning through obstacles, while others flicker like candles in the wind. But attention is not only internal, it is also external. To capture the gaze of others is to wield influence over their choices, desires, and behaviors. Celebrities, politicians, and business titans all trade in attention. Social media empires rise and fall on it. Entire markets shift because the public eye moves. When people give you their attention, they give you their time, their energy, and often their wallets. This is why manipulation thrives in silence, breaking distractions, why marketers spend billions to hijack your focus, and why the most powerful quietly practice the art of disappearing when attention weakens their hand. The one who learns to master, protect, and direct attention holds the true coin of power. Every fortune, every movement, every revolution begins not with money, but with eyes that cannot look away. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. The human mind craves complexity, but the human spirit bows before simplicity. We confuse clutter with depth, thinking that the more complicated something appears, the more powerful it must be. Yet the greatest truths, the most enduring systems, and the most unshakable fortunes are born out of simplicity. Billionaires, generals, and sages alike understand that sophistication does not lie in excess, but in refinement, the ability to strip away everything unnecessary until only the essential remains. Simplicity has a ruthless power. It exposes weakness because there is nowhere for excuses to hide. Complex plans crumble under pressure, while simple strategies endure because they are clear, focused, and impossible to break. In war, the most effective tactics are brutally straightforward. In business, the products that conquer the world are those that solve one problem elegantly, not 10 problems poorly. In life, those who simplify their actions, habits, and desires are free, while those who chase endless complexity are trapped. Simplicity demands mastery, for only the wise can distill chaos into clarity. Anyone can add layers, but it takes discipline to cut away. It is far easier to complicate than to refine, far easier to appear clever than to be truly effective. The sophisticated mind seeks silence over noise, essence over ornament, substance over distraction. Simplicity is not emptiness, it is precision. It is the sharpened blade that slices through confusion, the clear vision that guides an empire, the uncluttered life that moves faster than the tangled masses. Those who understand it create systems that outlive them, fortunes that grow without strain, and legacies that speak long after words are forgotten. Power comes from what you withhold, not what you share. The world is obsessed with oversharing, words, opinions, plans, emotions, believing that exposure equals strength. Yet true power has always belonged to those who master the art of withholding. What you reveal can be used against you, twisted or diminished, but what you conceal becomes a weapon that others cannot predict, control, or defend against. Silence, secrecy, and restraint create an aura of mystery that pulls people closer, while constant disclosure drains you of influence and leaves you naked before the world. When you withhold, you control the flow of information, and with information comes dominance. Kings ruled by keeping secrets, generals won wars by hiding strategy, and billionaires closed deals by revealing only fragments of their hand. The less others know of your intentions, the more they are forced to guess, and in guessing, they make mistakes. Mystery is leverage. Ambiguity is power. Those who cannot be read cannot be defeated. Even in human connection, what is withheld exerts more pull than what is given. Desire grows in absence. fascination blooms in silence, and respect deepens when every thought is not spilled carelessly. A restrained word carries more weight than 1,000 explanations. An unreadable expression commands more attention than endless chatter. To withhold is not weakness, it is control. It is the refusal to feed others your power by giving them everything. In business, in love, in life, those who hold back command the rhythm. They decide when to reveal, when to strike, when to speak. What you keep in the shadows shapes your influence far more than what you drag into the light. He who controls his breath controls his mind. Breath is the most underestimated key to power, yet it is the first and last thing you do in this life. Hidden in plain sight, it is the thread that ties body, mind, and spirit together. Billionaires, warriors, and sages have long known that control over breath is control over self, and control over self is the foundation of ruling anything beyond it. When fear rises, breath shortens. When anger ignites, breath quickens. When anxiety consumes, breath becomes shallow. The untrained are enslaved by these rhythms, tossed like leaves in the storm of emotion. But those who learn to command their breath step outside the storm. They slow it, direct it, transform it. By extending the inhale, by mastering the pause, by lengthening the exhale, the chaos of the mind bends into calm obedience. Ancient traditions guarded this secret fiercely. Yogis practiced pranayama, samurai steadied their lungs before battle, and monks inhaled deeply to silence wandering thoughts. Modern neuroscience now confirms what they already knew. Breath shapes the nervous system, dictating whether you dwell in panic or in presence. With every breath, you can ignite stress or extinguish it. In negotiations, controlled breath conceals weakness. In decision-making, steady breath sharpens clarity. In the face of insult or crisis, one calm inhale asserts mastery over the moment. The world belongs to those who are unshaken, and nothing steadies a man more than the simple, deliberate act of controlling his breath. He who rules his breath cannot be enslaved by impulse, cannot be bent by fear, and cannot be broken by chaos. Breath is the hidden weapon, the invisible throne upon which the mind sits in quiet, unshakable power. The unseen forces shape the seen world. What we see is only the surface, a fragile illusion resting on invisible foundations. The richest, the most powerful, and the most influential do not waste time fighting shadows in the light. They study and manipulate the unseen currents that give birth to those shadows. Behind every visible event lies an invisible cause, and behind every fortune lies an unseen alignment of forces, psychological, spiritual, and energetic. The unseen governs the seen because humans are wired to respond to what they cannot fully explain. Fear, belief, desire, these intangible forces move nations, crash markets, and ignite revolutions. A single rumor can erase billions from an economy. An unspoken tension in a room can kill a deal before words are spoken. A whisper of doubt can destroy confidence in an empire built over decades. The invisible hand is always stronger than the visible display. Billionaires quietly master these forces. They understand the psychology of crowds, the subconscious triggers buried deep in the human mind, and the subtle manipulation of perception. They know that shaping belief is far more powerful than shaping reality itself, because once minds bend, the world follows. Ancient traditions spoke of spirits, energies, and cosmic laws for the same reason. People instinctively know that unseen patterns govern their lives, even if they cannot name them. The mistake of the masses is to think only the tangible matters, money, status, possessions. But the true levers of power are hidden in silence, belief, and perception. Those who study the unseen pull strings, while others dance unknowingly. The world you see is a stage, and its script is written in realms you cannot see. Every thought plants a seed in reality. Every thought you entertain is not a passing shadow. It is a seed cast into the soil of your future. The mind is the most fertile ground in existence, and whatever you allow to take root within it begins to shape the world around you. Billionaires, visionaries, and mystics alike have known for centuries that thoughts are not harmless. They are blueprints of reality, invisible architects that silently construct the life you are destined to live. When you dwell on fear, doubt, or scarcity, you are watering weeds that choke out your potential. But when you hold visions of abundance, strength, and possibility, you cultivate a harvest that others mistake for luck. The unseen currents of your mind attract people, opportunities, and circumstances that match your dominant thoughts, pulling them into your orbit as if by magnetism. This is why empires begin as daydreams and revolutions as whispers in the imagination. Every fortune, every invention, every great triumph of history was once nothing more than a thought, fragile, fleeting, and invisible. Yet, with repetition and belief, these thoughts harden into reality. Your mind does not know the difference between imagination and truth. It simply follows the instructions you feed it. Billionaires quietly protect their mental diet as fiercely as their wealth, because they know that a single poisoned thought can sabotage years of progress. The tragedy is that most people scatter their seeds carelessly, filling their minds with doubt, distraction, and decay. But those who deliberately plant seeds of power watch the impossible bloom into inevitability. Reality is not found. It is grown, thought by thought, seed by seed. Energy flows where attention goes. Wherever your attention rests, your life follows. This principle, ancient yet undeniable, explains why some people seem to magnetize wealth, health, and opportunity, while others sink deeper into chaos. The mind is not a passive observer. It is an engine that directs energy. What you consistently focus on expands, and what you neglect withers away. Billionaires and visionaries understand this at the deepest level. They guard their attention like treasure because they know that wherever they place it, energy, resources, and results will multiply. Think of attention as sunlight. A scattered beam warms nothing, but when concentrated, it ignites fire. The same applies to human focus. If your thoughts dwell on problems, you pour fuel into them, making them heavier and harder to escape. But when you direct your attention towards solutions, doors open, opportunities emerge, and life reorganizes itself around your focus. The world bends to the force of sustained concentration. This law also governs influence. Those who command the attention of others redirect collective energy. Leaders, entertainers, and marketers know this. By capturing eyes and minds, they guide crowds, shift markets, and shape history. Attention is the steering wheel of human behavior, and wherever it turns, energy follows. The tragedy is that most people squander this force, scattering their focus across distractions, gossip, and fear, wondering why their lives remain stagnant. Meanwhile, the few who master it channel their energy into creation, investment, and mastery until the world itself begins to orbit around them. Energy is neutral. It obeys the mind. Wherever attention goes, reality grows. Sacred geometry governs prosperity. Beneath the chaos of the world lies an invisible order, a structure woven into nature, art, and even the flow of wealth itself. This order is sacred geometry, the timeless patterns and ratios that shape galaxies, flowers, seashells, pyramids, and the architecture of power. Those who understand these patterns know that prosperity is not random. It follows the same hidden laws that govern everything from the spiral of a sunflower to the orbit of planets. The ancients guarded this knowledge like treasure. The Egyptians built pyramids aligned with cosmic precision, not for beauty alone, but to harness energy. The Greeks encoded the golden ratio into temples and statues, believing harmony attracts divinity. Even the banking houses of Europe built their vaults and meeting halls around sacred proportions, embedding power into stone itself. To them, geometry was not just mathematics, it was the language of creation. Prosperity flows to alignment, and sacred geometry teaches alignment. Just as a crooked foundation collapses, so too does a life built against the laws of natural order. The circle whispers unity, the triangle whispers stability, the spiral whispers infinite growth. Billionaires who build empires understand this truth instinctively. They design businesses, brands, and strategies around principles of balance, symmetry, and flow. Wealth does not accumulate in chaos. It multiplies in harmony. Sacred geometry is the blueprint of compounding, the architecture of abundance, the silent law that connects the material with the spiritual. When your life, your vision, and your actions align with these patterns, prosperity does not need to be chased. It arrives as naturally as the tides obey the moon, drawn to the invisible harmony you have chosen to embody. To rule others, first rule yourself. Power over others begins with power over the self. The world is filled with people desperate to control, manipulate, and command, yet they are slaves to their own impulses, emotions, and fears. They seek to dominate while secretly being dominated by their appetites. The ancient masters knew that true authority cannot be faked. It radiates from within, forged through self-discipline, restraint, and mastery over one's own mind and body. To rule yourself is to become untouchable. The one who has conquered anger cannot be baited into foolish battles. The one who has subdued greed cannot be bought or manipulated. The one who has silenced fear cannot be intimidated. This internal dominion creates an aura that others instinctively recognize. People follow not because they are forced, but because they feel the presence of someone unshaken by chaos. Billionaires and leaders who rise to unimaginable heights are not merely strategists. They are masters of themselves. They wake when they choose, work when they choose, and resist temptations that destroy lesser men. They understand that willpower is the rarest resource, and the ability to direct their own energy is the root of all external influence. When you rule yourself, every interaction shifts. In negotiation, calm control unnerves opponents. In leadership, consistency builds unbreakable trust. In conflict, restraint becomes more intimidating than rage. Those who fail to govern themselves become tyrants who eventually collapse, consumed by their own vices. But those who master their inner kingdom find that others naturally yield, for no force is more commanding than a human being who has already won the war within. True riches are invisible until cultivated. The greatest wealth does not appear in gold, land, or possessions. It lies hidden, dormant, waiting to be discovered within you. True riches are not handed to anyone fully formed. They begin as unseen potentials, invisible to the eyes of the impatient. Billionaires and ancient sages both understand this. Fortune is first a seed buried deep in the soil of character, vision, and discipline. To the untrained, it looks like nothing. To the wise, it is the most valuable treasure of all. Your mind, your health, your relationships, your creativity, these are reservoirs of untapped wealth, but they demand cultivation. Just as a seed left unattended rots in the ground, raw potential without discipline dies unused. The tragedy of most lives is not that they lacked riches, but that they ignored them. Patience, knowledge, resilience, and imagination look invisible at first, but when nurtured, they transform into influence, opportunity, and material fortune. True riches hide in silence and obscurity, where no one else bothers to look. The billionaire sees value in ideas others dismiss, in habits others avoid, in sacrifices others cannot endure. What begins as invisible, an obscure thought, an unpopular belief, a daily practice of discipline, becomes over time the visible empire others call luck. The eyes of the masses seek instant results, but the eyes of the powerful look for hidden seeds. They know that wealth is never absent. It is simply concealed behind effort, patience, and vision. Only those willing to cultivate the invisible inherit treasures beyond measure, while those who chase only the visible are forever left empty-handed. Guard your sleep as fiercely as your gold. Sleep is the hidden currency of power, yet it is the one most recklessly squandered. In a culture that glorifies exhaustion and praises those who grind through the night, the truth is quietly ignored. Your sleep is more valuable than your wealth because it is the foundation upon which wealth, influence, and vitality are built. Billionaires who seem tireless do not burn themselves out. They fiercely protect their rest, knowing that a sharp mind multiplies fortunes faster than a fatigued one ever could. When you neglect sleep, you trade clarity for confusion, strength for weakness, and long-term fortune for short-term gain. A single night of deprivation corrodes decision-making, dulls memory, and erodes willpower, leaving you vulnerable to mistakes that can cost more than any missed opportunity. Empires have been lost to tired minds making reckless choices, while those who guarded their rest move forward with precision and control. Sleep is not just recovery, it is transformation. In the silence of the night, the body repairs, the mind reorganizes, and the spirit renews itself. Creative insight, strategic clarity, and emotional resilience are all born in the unseen hours when the world is quiet and your defenses are lowered. Guarding your sleep means guarding your future. To treat sleep as disposable is to squander gold by the handful. To guard it is to invest in a reservoir of energy that compounds endlessly. The rested mind sees opportunities others miss, reacts with calm in storms, and carries the endurance to outlast competitors. The wise know to protect your sleep is to protect your empire. Small daily rituals create massive, unseen compounding. Greatness is never built in sudden bursts of brilliance. It is forged in the quiet, invisible rituals repeated daily when no one is watching. The world glorifies the breakthrough moment, the sudden rise, the dramatic success, but what it does not see are the endless small acts stacked upon each other like bricks, forming an empire over time. Billionaires, warriors, and sages all rely on rituals, simple, consistent behaviors that, while insignificant in the moment, generate exponential returns across years. A ritual is more than a habit. It is sacred repetition, a deliberate act infused with meaning. The morning breathwork that steadies the mind, the daily reading that sharpens perspective, the nightly reflection that prevents drift. These are seeds sown in silence. Alone, they look small, almost trivial, but time is the multiplier, and time transforms them into unstoppable forces. The body reshapes, the mind rewires, the wealth compounds, the destiny shifts. This is the secret of compounding most fail to grasp. It is not only money that compounds, but discipline, focus, and energy. A man who meditates for 10 minutes daily will have a sharper mind than one who waits for a retreat once a year. A woman who invests modestly every month will surpass the gambler chasing quick wins. The ritualist outpaces the erratic because momentum is a god that rewards devotion. The unseen compounding of rituals is both terrifying and divine. Terrifying because neglecting them leads to unseen decay. Divine because embracing them makes growth inevitable. Small rituals are invisible in the moment, but over years they make the difference between mediocrity and mastery, poverty and prosperity, weakness and power. Secrecy multiplies influence. What is hidden holds more power than what is revealed. In every age, from ancient empires to modern boardrooms, those who understand the art of secrecy rise above those who live in constant exposure. The human mind is irresistibly drawn to mystery, and where there is silence, people will invent stories, fill gaps, and imagine greatness. This is why billionaires, rulers, and visionaries cloak their true intentions. Secrecy transforms the ordinary into the untouchable. When you reveal everything, you give others the blueprint to your downfall. But when you move in silence, your actions appear larger than life, impossible to predict, and difficult to counter. Secrecy destabilizes opponents because they cannot prepare for what they cannot see. It creates an atmosphere of intrigue, making people obsess over your next move, while you remain free to maneuver without resistance. Influence multiplies in the absence of clarity. A person shrouded in mystery is feared, respected, and admired all at once. Their silence invites speculation, and speculation is often more powerful than truth. Ancient orders, secret societies, and hidden councils thrive not merely because of their rituals, but because their very secrecy made their influence irresistible. The unknown creates awe, and awe commands obedience. Secrecy also sharpens strategy. Information kept close becomes leverage. Timing withheld becomes a weapon. The masses squander influence by speaking too quickly, oversharing, or proving themselves. The wise conserve their words, guard their plans, and let results speak louder than confessions. To be seen is to be predictable, but to remain partially hidden is to command the imagination of others. Those who understand this wield twice the influence of those who do not. Time is the only irreplaceable asset. Everything in life can be lost and regained: money, status, possessions, even health to some degree. But time is the one currency that once spent can never be reclaimed. Billionaires understand this with a cold clarity. Wealth is not measured in dollars, it is measured in minutes. Every empire is built not on money first, but on how ruthlessly its creator spent or protected his hours. The poor waste time as though it were infinite. The powerful guard it as though it were oxygen. Time is terrifying because it is slipping away silently, whether you act or not. Each sunrise withdraws from your account. Each distraction is theft. Each hesitation a robbery that can never be undone. While others trade their hours for wages, the wise trade their hours for leverage, creating systems that free them from the prison of selling their life in pieces. This is why the powerful delegate relentlessly, why they say no more often than yes, why they choose solitude over shallow company. They know every commitment is not just a meeting, not just a task. It is a withdrawal from the one account that can never be refilled. A billionaire can lose billions and earn them back, but he cannot purchase a single extra second when the clock runs dry. Time is the invisible battlefield where destinies are won or lost. Those who squander it live as beggars, forever chasing scraps. Those who master it live as kings, shaping decades with each deliberate moment. The cruel truth is that death is the final accountant, and it will show you exactly how you spent your only irreplaceable asset. The fewer your desires, the greater your freedom. Desire is the chain that binds even the wealthiest to invisible prisons. No matter how vast the fortune, a man enslaved by endless wants will never taste freedom. The secret known to sages and, quietly, to billionaires is that true power lies not in multiplying possessions, but in mastering desire itself. Every longing creates dependency. Every craving ties you to something outside of yourself. The fewer your desires, the lighter you become, until no one and nothing can control you. Freedom is not the absence of responsibility. It is the absence of compulsion. When your happiness depends on fewer things, you cannot be manipulated, bribed, or broken. The man who needs little cannot be bought, because he has already severed the hooks the world uses to control others. History is filled with rulers, moguls, and conquerors who commanded nations but remained slaves to their own appetites, destroyed not by enemies but by cravings they could not silence. To strip down desire is to reclaim power. The one who eats simply, sleeps deeply, and takes joy in little is immune to the games of status and greed. What terrifies the powerful most is a person who cannot be tempted, for such a soul is unshakable, untouchable, and incorruptible. Billionaires use this principle differently. They often practice restraint, cutting distractions and narrowing desires so they can pursue only the few that matter most. By focusing on one consuming vision while discarding the trivial, they unleash staggering energy. The fewer your desires, the more of yourself you reclaim. Freedom begins not with acquisition, but with release. Destiny bends to those with clarity of vision. The universe does not reward the wandering mind. It rewards the one who knows exactly where it is going. Clarity of vision is not just focus. It is a magnetic force that bends circumstances, people, and opportunities into alignment. Billionaires and conquerors alike live by this truth. When you see your future so vividly that it burns into your very being, the world has no choice but to rearrange itself around that vision. Most people drift, pulled by distractions, opinions, and fears. Their desires are foggy, their goals uncertain, their paths tangled. But clarity slices through the fog like a blade. When your vision is sharp, decisions become effortless, obstacles lose their weight, and chance begins to look like fate. Others call it luck, but it is not luck. It is the unseen gravity of a mind that knows precisely what it seeks. Ancient seers spoke of this as prophecy, but it is no supernatural gift. It is the power of direction. The archer who fixes his eye on the target bends the arrow's flight. The builder who sees the temple before it exists bends stone and timber into form. The entrepreneur who sees a future world no one else believes in bends markets to his will. Clarity commands respect. It terrifies the uncertain. It attracts the faithful, and it awakens dormant allies. Destiny does not belong to the cleverest or the strongest. It belongs to the one who sees the end before he begins. The world bends not to noise or doubt, but to the fire of a vision so clear that reality itself must surrender. Nothing strengthens power like restraint. True power is not proven through constant display. It is revealed in the moments when you could act, but choose not to. Restraint is the mark of someone who does not need to prove their strength because they already possess it. The masses confuse recklessness with dominance, believing that anger, noise, or excess show control, but the wise know that unchecked reaction is weakness disguised as power, and that the ability to hold back is more commanding than any outburst. Restraint unsettles those who expect aggression. When someone insults you and you remain composed, they are robbed of victory. When opponents attempt to provoke you and you respond with silence, you strip them of control. In business, the one who does not rush into every opportunity but waits with patience often gains the best deal. In leadership, the one who resists the urge to dominate every conversation commands more respect than the one who speaks endlessly. History is filled with rulers destroyed by indulgence, lust, or rage, slaves to their own appetites. Yet those who mastered restraint built dynasties that endured. Billionaires guard their impulses with the same care they guard their fortunes, knowing that a single act of recklessness can undo decades of empire building. Restraint is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength. It demonstrates mastery over the self, and mastery over the self radiates authority over others. The restrained man inspires fear because he cannot be predicted, manipulated, or rushed. To possess power and withhold it is to show the world that you are not ruled by desire. You are the ruler of it. The subconscious decides before the conscious admits. Long before you believe you are making a choice, the decision has already been made deep within the hidden corridors of your subconscious mind. Neuroscientists have proven what mystics and manipulators always knew. The subconscious acts first, and the conscious only justifies afterward. Every rational decision is a story you tell yourself, a narrative layered over impulses that already moved your hand, your words, your life. This is why advertising does not sell products. It sells emotions. It plants suggestions below awareness, shaping desire before you ever recognize it. Billionaires, marketers, and political leaders exploit this truth relentlessly. They know that logic is a thin mask over the real engine of human behavior: fear, longing, insecurity, and desire, all residing in the subconscious. By the time your conscious mind thinks it is choosing, the seed has already sprouted roots. Your subconscious is ancient, primal, and infinitely powerful. It is shaped by repetition, imagery, and emotion, not by reason. Every song you hum without thinking, every belief you hold without questioning, every impulse you follow without explanation, these are fingerprints of the subconscious at work. It stores every experience, every trauma, every symbol you've ever absorbed, quietly programming your destiny while you sleepwalk through choices. This is why the powerful guard what enters their subconscious. They feed it images of victory, thoughts of wealth, and stories of greatness, while the masses flood theirs with fear, gossip, and distractions. The subconscious is not your servant. It is your master. Ignore it, and it drags you into ruin. Train it, and it carries you toward inevitability long before your conscious mind even realizes you have arrived. Detachment magnetizes wealth. Clinging repels, but detachment draws everything closer. This paradox is one of the oldest secrets of power, whispered in ancient temples and practiced today in boardrooms by those who understand the invisible laws of wealth. The harder you grasp at money, status, or influence, the more they slip through your fingers. Desperation radiates weakness, and the world punishes the desperate. But when you release the need to chase, when you stand unshaken, whether wealth arrives or departs, you become magnetic to opportunity. Detachment does not mean apathy. It is mastery. It is the ability to pursue with intensity but remain unmoved by outcome. Those who are detached negotiate with strength because they can walk away. They invest without panic because they trust time. They innovate without fear of failure because their identity is not chained to results. This calm indifference terrifies opponents because it makes you unpredictable and unshakable. The wealthy know that obsession with money creates blindness, while detachment sharpens vision. When you stop clutching at every coin, your mind sees broader horizons, hidden paths, and long-term strategies invisible to those consumed by greed. Detachment opens the door to patience, and patience is the soil where fortunes grow. Even in human relationships, detachment breeds attraction. People chase what eludes them, respect what doesn't beg, and value what doesn't need them. Wealth operates the same way. The moment you stop kneeling before it, it begins to seek you. Detachment signals power, and power pulls resources toward it like gravity. To master detachment is to step into a state where wealth is no longer hunted. It arrives. Masters trade short-term comfort for long-term empires. Comfort is the most seductive trap ever designed, luring millions into mediocrity while only a few dare to escape its grasp. The masses choose ease, distraction, and instant gratification, yet wonder why greatness never visits them. Masters, on the other hand, see comfort for what it truly is, the thief of empires. They willingly sacrifice the pleasures of today, enduring discomfort, struggle, and isolation, because they understand that what is built in pain becomes unshakable in time. Every empire in history was forged by those who embraced hardship, the conquerors who marched through hunger and cold, the entrepreneurs who worked while others slept, the visionaries who endured ridicule while building futures no one else could see. They all traded short-term comfort for long-term power. Comfort feeds the body, but sacrifice feeds the soul, and the soul is where enduring empires are born. Discipline is the hidden currency of destiny. Where the weak seek entertainment, the strong practice. Where the many indulge, the few invest. The empire builder accepts loneliness, fatigue, and relentless effort, knowing each small sacrifice compounds into unstoppable dominance. Pleasure comes later, magnified 1,000-fold, when others are bound by regret, and he stands free with an empire at his feet. This is why the powerful are often misunderstood. Their lives look harsh in the moment, stripped of indulgence, but in reality, they are trading temporary discomfort for permanent sovereignty. Comfort fades quickly, but empires endure. Masters know this, and so they choose the fire of sacrifice over the softness of ease, because the world is always inherited by those willing to suffer now so they can rule forever. The spoken word invokes unseen contracts. Every word you speak carries weight beyond sound. Ancient cultures believed that words were spells, capable of shaping destiny and binding reality, and modern psychology quietly affirms the same. Once spoken, words are not easily undone. They create expectations, ignite emotions, and forge invisible agreements that linger long after the echo fades. To the untrained ear, speech is casual. To the powerful, it is binding. When you promise even lightly, you plant a seed in the mind of another, and that seed grows into expectation. When you curse or speak negatively, you bind yourself to limitation, because your subconscious obeys the instructions hidden in your own voice. And when you speak with intention, you create an unseen contract, not only with others, but with yourself. Billionaires and leaders know this instinctively. They speak sparingly because they understand that every word becomes a thread in the fabric of their influence. The reason words hold such power is that humans are wired to believe what is spoken aloud. A declaration creates accountability, whether you want it or not. A vow becomes a silent contract, pulling behavior toward fulfillment. Politicians promise change, and crowds hold them hostage to those words. A careless insult, once uttered, binds relationships to distrust that cannot be repaired with apologies. Words cannot be unsaid. They only ripple outward, taking on lives of their own. This is why the wise guard their speech like treasure. They know that every conversation is a negotiation of power, every sentence a binding thread of destiny. To speak is to contract, and those who understand this shape reality without ever putting ink to paper. Symbols move crowds more than logic. Human beings believe they are guided by reason, yet history proves otherwise. Logic whispers, but symbols roar. A flag, a cross, a logo, a crown. These simple images ignite loyalty, fear, and passion far more powerfully than any carefully crafted argument. Billionaires, politicians, and rulers have always known this truth. People do not rally to numbers or charts. They rally to symbols that embody something larger than themselves. A symbol bypasses the conscious mind and pierces directly into the subconscious. It condenses entire belief systems into a single shape, color, or image. A nation bleeds for its flag, consumers pay fortunes for a logo stitched on cloth, and armies follow banners into death. No paragraph of logic could compel such devotion, but a symbol can make people sacrifice everything without question. This is why corporations guard their logos like sacred relics, and why empires collapse when their symbols are desecrated. The dollar itself is just paper, but stamped with a symbol, it commands obedience. Billionaires harness symbols in branding, turning ordinary objects into icons of status, desire, and identity. Once a product becomes a symbol, it no longer sells function, it sells belonging. Logic convinces the mind, but symbols command the soul. They anchor emotion, trigger memory, and unify crowds into movements. The most dangerous leaders in history did not persuade with flawless arguments. They wielded symbols that burned into the collective psyche. To understand this is to wield a hidden weapon of influence. The masses argue over logic, but they follow the banner, the brand, the symbol that touches something beyond reason. Wealth accumulates to those who solve eternal problems. The fortunes that endure across centuries are never built on fads, trends, or passing desires. They are born from solving problems so fundamental to human existence that they will never disappear. Food, shelter, love, health, security, connection, these are eternal needs, woven into the very fabric of life. Those who align their vision with these timeless hungers become architects of empires, while those who chase the temporary rise and fall with the season. Billionaires understand this distinction intimately. They do not gamble their energy on fleeting sparks. They focus on the fires that never die. A company that makes people laugh, that keeps them safe, that feeds their bodies or nourishes their souls will never be obsolete. While others sprint after novelty, the powerful choose inevitability. They know that solving an eternal problem once can create wealth that compounds endlessly, because humanity will always return to it. This principle is why water, energy, medicine, housing, and technology remain the bedrock of fortunes. It is why the storytellers of ancient times and the digital platforms of today share the same essence. They feed the eternal hunger for connection. To identify an eternal problem is to discover a river that never stops flowing, and to position yourself there is to drink from it for life. Wealth does not reward those who chase the new, but those who serve the forever. The greatest opportunities lie not in predicting what will vanish, but in serving what cannot be erased. Eternal problems are eternal treasures, and the ones who solve them are never forgotten. The body mirrors the state of the soul. The body never lies. It carries, in every gesture, every illness, every ounce of strength or weakness, the secret language of the soul. What we try to hide with words, the body shouts in silence. Billionaires, warriors, and mystics all understand this. The body is not separate from the soul. It is its mirror, its canvas, its battlefield. A restless soul produces a restless body. Anxiety shows itself in shallow breaths, darting eyes, and nervous tics. Anger burns in clenched jaws and tightened fists. Guilt hunches the back, as though the spirit cannot bear its own weight. By contrast, a soul at peace radiates through relaxed posture, glowing skin, and movements that flow with ease. True vitality is not purchased in gyms or clinics. It is born in the alignment of spirit and flesh. Ancient traditions never separated healing of the body from healing of the soul. Shamans, monks, and healers knew that sickness was often the voice of the soul crying out through the body. Unresolved grief becomes heaviness in the chest. Suppressed rage becomes knots in the stomach. A life unlived becomes fatigue that no rest can cure. The wise do not silence these symptoms. They listen to them. The powerful quietly master this connection. They nourish their souls with purpose, discipline, and clarity, knowing it will manifest in physical resilience and presence. Their bodies project authority not merely from training, but from inner alignment. The truth is simple yet terrifying. Your body is the scoreboard of your soul. If you wish to stand tall, breathe fully, and radiate strength, do not only train your muscles, purify the unseen, for the body will always reveal what the soul refuses to conceal. Energy vampires are the true thieves of fortunes. The greatest threat to wealth is not always bad investments, market crashes, or failed ventures. It is the silent drain of human leeches who feed on your energy. Energy vampires come in many forms: the complainer who never acts, the friend who constantly demands your time, the employee who saps morale, the partner who thrives on chaos. They don't just waste minutes, they siphon the very vitality you need to create, build, and command. Billionaires guard themselves against such people with the same ferocity that they guard their bank accounts. They know that energy is the true currency of creation, and when it is scattered, fortune bleeds out in ways too subtle to track. You may think you are losing only an hour in conversation, but you are losing focus, clarity, and the momentum required to turn ideas into gold. Energy vampires thrive on attention. They hook into your empathy, your guilt, your fear of disappointing them. They know how to make their chaos your problem. Every moment you spend untangling their drama is a moment stolen from your vision. Their theft is not obvious like a hand in your wallet. It is invisible and therefore more dangerous. The ancients warned of parasites of the spirit, and modern psychology gives them names like narcissists and manipulators. Whatever you call them, the truth is the same. No fortune can withstand constant drains. The powerful escape by drawing sharp boundaries, cutting ties without hesitation, and surrounding themselves only with those who multiply energy, not consume it. Wealth grows where energy is protected, but it dies in the presence of thieves who drink it dry. Stillness reveals hidden opportunities. The world worships speed, noise, and constant motion, but true power often belongs to those who embrace stillness. In stillness, the fog of distraction lifts, and what is invisible to the frantic becomes clear to the patient observer. Opportunities do not always shout, they whisper, and only a mind that has learned to be still can hear them. When you are constantly moving, chasing, reacting, you are blind to the subtle openings that appear around you. Stillness sharpens perception. It allows you to see what others miss. The shift in a person's tone that reveals hidden weakness, the quiet market trend forming beneath the chaos of headlines, the path through conflict that only appears when emotion is silenced. Billionaires, monks, and warriors alike understand this. The world bends not to those who thrash about, but to those who wait with clarity until the moment is right. Stillness is not passivity, it is preparation. A predator lies in wait, motionless, until the exact instant the prey steps into reach. The greatest negotiators allow silence to stretch, watching as the other side crumbles under the weight of their own words. The investor who waits calmly sees the crash as opportunity, while the panicked masses lose everything. In stillness, your mind reconnects with its hidden depth. Intuition awakens, patterns emerge, decisions become sharper because they are not poisoned by haste. The masses exhaust themselves with motion, but the few who master stillness see doors that remain forever closed to those too restless to notice they exist. The unseen order is chaos harnessed. On the surface, the world looks chaotic. Markets rise and collapse, empires appear and vanish, fortunes are won and lost overnight. To the untrained eye, life seems like a storm without pattern, a violent dance of randomness. Yet those who rise above the noise see a deeper truth. Chaos is not disorder, it is raw power waiting to be shaped. Beneath every wave of uncertainty lies rhythm. Beneath every collapse lies opportunity. Beneath every storm lies hidden order. The masters of wealth and influence are not those who fear chaos, but those who harness it. Chaos terrifies the masses because it shatters comfort, but to the powerful, chaos is a forge. Crises create leverage, uncertainty creates openings, and instability clears the path for those bold enough to walk it. Billionaires thrive in moments others call disasters because they see patterns where others see panic. They know that when the world falls apart, it is only rearranging itself into new forms, and those who can read the hidden order emerge richer, stronger, untouchable. This wisdom is as ancient as the stars. Nature itself thrives on chaos. The forest fire that destroys also renews. The storm that devastates also restores balance. The unseen order is not gentle. It is violent, transformative, unstoppable. But to those who embrace it, it is the ultimate source of creation. Chaos is never the enemy. It is untamed energy, a wild current waiting for the hand strong enough to steer it. Those who master this law stand calm while others break, carving empires out of the very storms that swallow the fearful whole. Repetition carves pathways into destiny. Repetition is the hammer that shapes destiny, striking again and again until the formless becomes form. The mind, like stone, resists at first, but every repeated action leaves an impression, and over time, those impressions become permanent grooves that direct the course of life. Billionaires, athletes, and visionaries understand this truth with a devotion the masses overlook. Destiny is not written in sudden moments of brilliance, but in the small acts repeated endlessly until they etch themselves into reality. The brain itself is wired for this. Neural pathways strengthen with repetition, habits harden into instinct, and what once required effort becomes automatic. This is why the disciplined rise. They have carved routines so deep that success is no longer a choice, but a default. Where others waste energy deciding, the master simply does, propelled by pathways forged through relentless practice. Ancient warriors drilled their strikes until the body moved without thought. Monks repeated chants until their minds dissolved into silence. Builders of empires rehearsed strategies until instinct replaced hesitation. Repetition does not merely build skill, it rewires identity. Each repeated action whispers, "This is who I am," until destiny itself conforms to the echo. Most fail because they scatter their efforts, quitting before the groove deepens. They crave novelty, not mastery, and so their lives remain shallow. But those who embrace the monotony of repetition unlock the terrifying compounding of momentum. A single drop of water is weak, but repeated endlessly, it hollows stone. So too does repetition hollow excuses and carve an unshakable path toward greatness. Destiny bends to the rhythm of what we repeat, willingly or not. What you consume consumes you. Every choice you make about what to take in, food, information, entertainment, conversations, becomes part of you. What enters your body shapes your health. What enters your mind shapes your thoughts. And what enters your spirit shapes your destiny. The mistake most people make is believing consumption is passive, when in truth it is the most active act of self-creation. Every bite, every word, every story, every song, every idea leaves its imprint, carving invisible grooves into your behavior and your future. Billionaires and visionaries are ruthless about their diet of the mind and body. They do not drown themselves in gossip or empty noise because they know thoughts are contagious, moods are viral, and environments infect the soul. Just as poison food weakens the body, toxic media and toxic people poison ambition. The one who feasts on distractions becomes distracted. The one who consumes fear becomes fearful. The one who feeds on chaos becomes chaotic. Consumption is possession. What you consume consumes you because it rewires your instincts, dictates your desires, and programs your subconscious. Read wisdom daily, and wisdom will speak through you. Feed on mediocrity, and mediocrity will ooze from your choices. It is impossible to escape this law because the mind and body are sponges, not shields. This is why the powerful guard their inputs as carefully as their bank vaults. They know that discipline is not only about what you do, but about what you allow inside your gates. The world is constantly trying to feed you junk because a full stomach and a full mind are easier to control. But those who consume with awareness invert the law. Their choices consume the world instead. Intuition outpaces analysis when cultivated. There is a knowing beyond logic, a silent voice that whispers answers before the mind has finished its calculations. This is intuition, the ancient intelligence buried beneath layers of reason and noise. While analysis dissects and delays, intuition strikes with speed, often delivering truth long before data can be gathered. Billionaires, generals, and mystics know this well. The most critical decisions are not made with spreadsheets, but with instinct sharpened through experience. Intuition is the subconscious, revealing patterns your conscious cannot yet articulate. Every sight, sound, and experience you've absorbed lives inside you, forming connections beneath awareness. When intuition speaks, it is the sum of 1,000 hidden observations compressed into a single impulse. To ignore it is to discard your most powerful ally. But intuition does not appear fully formed. It must be cultivated. It grows through awareness, silence, and trust. The impatient dismiss it as superstition, while the wise treat it as a compass. A seasoned investor senses the weakness of a deal others can't explain. A leader feels the shift in a room before anyone speaks. A warrior anticipates the strike before it comes. Analysis would arrive too late, but intuition is already there. The tragedy is that most bury their intuition beneath noise, doubting the voice that guides them. Yet when trained, it becomes faster than logic, sharper than numbers, and often more reliable than reason itself. Cultivated intuition is lightning, where analysis is thunder. It strikes first, illuminating the truth while others still search in the dark. The observer reshapes the observed. Reality is not as solid as it seems. The moment you turn your gaze upon something, you alter it. Ancient mystics whispered this truth, and modern science has confirmed it through the strange behavior of particles that change when watched. But beyond physics, this law governs human interaction, wealth, and power. People, events, and outcomes bend under the weight of attention. The observer is never passive. Observation itself reshapes the observed. This is why leaders carry an aura that transforms a room the instant they enter. Their very presence alters how people act, speak, and think. A billionaire walks into a negotiation, and suddenly the dynamics shift, not because of what they say, but because their attention changes the environment. When you observe with intensity, the object of your gaze feels it and adapts, often unconsciously, to align with your focus. The mind, too, bends reality through observation. Focus on weakness, and it grows. Focus on strength, and it expands. By observing yourself with clarity, by turning awareness inward, you change habits, patterns, and outcomes that once felt immovable. Observation becomes creation, for what you witness repeatedly cannot help but evolve. This principle terrifies those who do not understand it, because it means nothing is fixed. The act of watching makes you a participant, not a spectator. Billionaires and visionaries wield this like a blade, studying markets, people, and systems with such relentless focus that the very act of watching bends them toward desired outcomes. To observe deeply is to influence. To influence is to create. The observer is never neutral. They are the sculptor, and the world is the clay. Rituals bend time perception. Time is often seen as rigid, unchanging, and merciless, but those who understand rituals know this is an illusion. Rituals have the power to bend time, stretching it, compressing it, and even suspending it altogether. When you anchor your days with deliberate practices, you step outside the frantic rush that enslaves the masses. Billionaires, monks, and mystics alike weave rituals into their lives not as superstition, but as tools for reshaping how time is experienced and harnessed. A ritual slows the chaos of existence. Morning practices like meditation, journaling, or breathwork create stillness, turning frantic hours into grounded clarity. In these moments, 5 minutes can feel like an eternity of calm. Conversely, rituals of deep focus, repeating a mantra, structuring a work session, lighting a candle before creation, compress time so intensely that hours pass like minutes, producing results that seem impossible to ordinary minds. The brain craves rhythm, and rituals feed it. They create psychological anchors that signal to the body and mind what reality to enter: calm, focus, creativity, or even altered states of consciousness. Ancient civilizations used rituals to access realms beyond time, chants, dances, and sacred ceremonies that carried them outside ordinary perception. Modern achievers quietly replicate this, ritualizing routines that place them in command of their hours while others drown in distraction. Those without ritual are slaves to time, always rushing, always behind. Those with ritual bend it to their will, expanding it when they need presence, collapsing it when they need productivity. The secret is simple yet profound. Control your rituals, and you no longer merely live within time. You master its flow, bending it into an ally instead of an enemy. Power requires asymmetric information. All dominance rests on an imbalance of knowledge. To hold power is to see what others cannot, to know what others do not, and to act from a position where your decisions are guided by truths hidden from the masses. Asymmetric information is the invisible weapon that has toppled empires, built dynasties, and made billionaires out of ordinary men. It is the gap between what you know and what others believe that creates leverage. Markets move on this principle. The investor who understands a shift before it becomes public harvests fortunes while others are still blind. The negotiator who knows the other side's weakness can extract concessions without revealing a thing. Leaders who guard their knowledge carefully control outcomes without ever raising their voices, because those who know more can shape the decisions of those who know less. The reason this principle is so dangerous is because information is perception, and perception governs reality. When you hold truths others don't, you can craft illusions that bend their actions toward your desired outcome. History's most powerful figures rarely fought with swords or armies. They fought with secrets, with intelligence networks, with whispers that could move nations while their enemies chase shadows. Billionaires apply this law every day, not just through insider knowledge, but through their ability to see patterns invisible to the average mind. They know that once everyone sees the opportunity, it is already gone. Power requires silence, strategy, and selective revelation. To level the field is to surrender control, but to guard knowledge and release it only when it serves you is to hold the world in your hands. Every gain requires an equal unseen offering. Nothing in this world is free, though most pretend it is. Every gain, every fortune, every advancement extracts a hidden price. The law is ancient, older than kingdoms and currencies. For everything taken, something must be offered. Billionaires, mystics, and conquerors know this well. They may not speak of it, but they live by it, understanding that success always demands sacrifice, often invisible to the outside world. You cannot climb without leaving something behind. A business empire consumes years of youth, countless sleepless nights, relationships neglected, health pushed to its edges. Every dollar carries a shadow of time or energy spent. The masses envy the crown, but never see the blood underneath it. The unseen offering is what separates dreamers from doers, the price silently paid in solitude, patience, and pain. The universe trades in balance. If you demand abundance, you must give focus. If you demand mastery, you must give obsession. If you demand freedom, you must give discipline. To try to cheat this law is to invite ruin, for the world always collects its due. Even luck carries a bill, and fortune tests whether you are worthy to hold what you've gained. Those who rise understand this bargain. They do not resent the offering, they embrace it. While others recoil at the price of greatness, the powerful surrender it willingly, knowing that sacrifice is not loss, but exchange. Every gain requires an equal unseen offering, and those who refuse to pay live forever in mediocrity, wondering why the gates of fortune never open for them. Your environment is your silent master. You may believe you shape your life through willpower, ambition, or discipline, but beneath all effort lies a force more powerful and more invisible, your environment. It whispers to you without words, molds your habits without force, and guides your destiny without asking permission. Your surroundings, the people you keep, the spaces you inhabit, the culture you breathe in, become your silent master, training you day by day in ways you rarely notice. Even the strongest will bends eventually to environment. A man who surrounds himself with mediocrity will unconsciously lower his standards. A woman who fills her space with clutter will slowly feel her mind tangled in the same mess. But place yourself among visionaries in an environment designed for focus, and suddenly growth feels inevitable. The world outside seeps into the world within, shaping the choices you think are yours. Billionaires understand this secret well. They design environments that reinforce power, private retreats for clarity, offices engineered for flow, networks of allies who sharpen instead of dull. They spend fortunes not just on what they own, but on the invisible atmosphere that surrounds them, because they know that environment is stronger than willpower, and proximity is stronger than intention. Your environment decides your future more than your plans do. It decides what feels normal, what feels possible, what feels inevitable. The cage and the kingdom are built the same way, not with chains, but with surroundings that make one reality inescapable. Master your environment, or it will master you. In silence, it trains you, and in silence, it determines who you will become. The crowd always trades truth for comfort. Human beings crave truth, but only until it begins to burn. When the truth demands sacrifice, courage, or the shattering of illusions, the crowd will abandon it in an instant for the safety of comfort. This is why history is filled with prophets ignored, visionaries mocked, and revolutionaries crucified, because the masses prefer the soft lie that soothes them over the hard truth that liberates them. Billionaires and rulers understand this with chilling clarity. They do not feed the crowd reality, they feed it stories. They know that most people do not want to see the world as it is, but as they wish it to be. Bread in circuses in Rome, political slogans in every age, advertisements that sell feelings rather than facts, all are built upon this principle. The crowd demands comfort, and those who provide it control them. But the cost is enormous. Comfort dulls the edge of growth. It blinds the masses to exploitation, chains them in invisible prisons, and ensures they remain dependent on those who dispense the soothing lie. Meanwhile, the rare individual who chooses truth, no matter how painful, steps outside the herd and into power. For truth wounds at first, but it frees forever, while comfort eases for a moment, but enslaves for life. This is why the wise live differently. They endure the discomfort of seeing clearly, the loneliness of walking apart, the burden of knowledge that others reject. The crowd will always trade truth for comfort, but those who refuse that trade inherit the strength, clarity, and sovereignty that the masses will never know. Money obeys those who obey rhythm. Wealth is not random. It moves in cycles, pulses, and rhythms as old as nature itself. Just as the moon commands the tides and seasons dictate the harvest, money flows according to patterns that reveal themselves only to the disciplined observer. Those who fight these rhythms chase wealth endlessly, always arriving too late or leaving too soon. But those who align themselves with the beat of cycles, economic, emotional, even cosmic, find that money begins to obey them as if by law. Markets rise and fall like breath. Opportunities emerge and vanish like waves. There are moments to act and moments to be still, times to build and times to harvest. The impatient throw themselves against the current and are crushed, while the wise wait for the tide, stepping in only when momentum carries them forward effortlessly. Billionaires do not try to force the river. They learn its bends, its floods, its droughts, and position themselves so that the flow does the work for them. Rhythm is everywhere. Daily rituals create the rhythm of productivity. Sleep and focus create the rhythm of the mind. Spending and saving create the rhythm of wealth. To live without rhythm is to stumble blind, exhausting yourself while achieving little. But to master rhythm is to harness invisible order, to move in harmony with forces greater than yourself. Money obeys rhythm because rhythm is law, and law is irresistible. The fortune builders are those who listen closely, who sense the beat beneath chaos, who ride the cycle instead of resisting it. To ignore rhythm is to live as prey. To obey rhythm is to command fortune itself. Invisible networks rule visible markets. What most people see in the world of wealth and power is only the surface, a dance of prices, deals, and public moves. But beneath that thin layer lies the true machinery. invisible networks of influence, relationships, and hidden alliances that quietly shape everything. Markets may appear to move by numbers and logic, yet behind every trend, every rise, every collapse, are people connected by webs of trust, favors, and secrets. Billionaires and rulers thrive not because they chase markets, but because they build and command the networks that move them. An invisible network can shift billions without a headline. A single conversation over dinner can redirect capital flows. A handshake between two unseen power players can open doors that no public strategy ever could. These networks are not announced, not advertised, and rarely documented. They exist in private clubs, encrypted chats, and unspoken agreements passed down through generations. To the outsider, markets look chaotic. To the insider, they are orchestrated. This is why access is worth more than knowledge. The average trader studies charts. The powerful study people. They know that the true signals of opportunity are not found on public screens, but in whispers, alliances, and closed circles. To be excluded is to forever chase shadows. To be included is to profit before the world even knows what is happening. Invisible networks rule visible markets because human beings, not numbers, ultimately control money. Behind every empire is a web of connections strong enough to bend reality, and those who learn to weave themselves into these unseen threads rise, while the rest remain spectators of a game already decided. True authority never announces itself. Real power does not shout. It does not beg to be noticed. It does not demand respect. True authority is silent, effortless, and undeniable. It radiates in presence, not proclamation. The loudest man in the room is often the weakest, desperate to convince others of strength he does not possess. The one who truly holds power rarely speaks of it, because authority revealed through action is infinitely greater than authority declared through words. This is why billionaires, generals, and rulers move with quiet confidence. They do not waste energy on proving who they are. Their decisions, their control of resources, their influence over others speak louder than any declaration. Authority is not earned through noise. It is recognized instinctively. People sense it in body language, in tone, in the calm stillness of someone who has nothing to prove. The more subtle the authority, the more absolute it feels, because it does not need validation. History is filled with figures who ruled without raising their voices. A single glance, a pause, or a nod was enough to shift armies, seal deals, or silence entire rooms. This is the essence of true authority. Its power lies in its invisibility, in the way it bends others without visible effort. Those who possess it understand that the greatest strength is in restraint, the ability to hold back, to let others reveal their insecurity while you remain immovable. Authority that must announce itself is fragile. Authority that does not announce itself is unshakable. When presence alone can command obedience, no words are required. The world already knows. To predict the future, study ancient cycles. The future is not chaos, it is repetition. What seems like change is often the return of patterns older than memory, repeating themselves under new disguises. Empires rise and fall in rhythms. Markets boom and collapse in waves. Human behavior dances to the same eternal drum. Those who study ancient cycles see what the blind cannot. The future is written in the past. Civilizations have long understood this. The Mayans charted time in great cycles. The Greeks spoke of ages of man. The Chinese mapped dynastic rise and decay. Even nature itself reveals the pattern. Seasons repeat, tides return, stars move in predictable orbits. The ancients watched these cycles and built their lives around them, while the modern world, obsessed with novelty, ignores the wisdom etched into time. Billionaires and strategists who rule markets today do not truly predict. They recognize cycles, positioning themselves before the turning of the wheel. Fear and greed alternate in financial markets just as surely as day follows night. Societies grow decadent and collapse just as fields grow fertile and then barren. Human emotions, technologies, even wars all move in spirals, not straight lines. To the untrained, these repetitions look like shocks, crises, and surprises. To the one who has studied the ancient cycles, they are inevitabilities. The power lies in preparation. By reading the echoes of history, by recognizing the rhythm in human affairs, one can stand where the wheel is about to turn. While the masses are crushed beneath it, the seer rides atop it. To know the future is not to guess. It is to remember what has already happened, and to know it will happen again. Wealth is stored energy. Money is not paper, numbers, or gold. It is energy condensed into a form that can be transferred, directed, and multiplied. Every dollar represents effort, time, thought, or risk that has been crystallized into value. Wealth is the residue of energy once expended, captured so it can be wielded again in the future. Those who understand this see money not as an object to hoard, but as a reservoir of potential waiting to be unleashed. Think of energy in its purest form. It flows, it fuels, it transforms. When you work, you convert your life force into labor. When you think, you refine energy into ideas. When you risk, you channel courage into opportunity. Wealth accumulates when this energy is not wasted, but stored. Billionaires do not view their fortunes as static piles of currency. They see them as vast batteries of potential, capable of being discharged into ventures, technologies, or movements that reshape the world. The reason so many remain poor is because they leak energy as quickly as they generate it. They trade it for fleeting pleasures, scatter it in distractions, or surrender it to energy vampires who consume it for nothing. But the wealthy channel and conserve. They know that where energy is stored, it can compound, just as fire grows when fed deliberately instead of burned recklessly. Wealth is energy, and like all energy, it obeys laws. It flows to discipline. It abandons chaos. It magnifies when concentrated. To hold wealth is to hold the power of stored life force, and those who master it can release it in ways that bend reality itself. Silence destroys enemies faster than anger. Anger is loud, impulsive, and exhausting. It reveals your weakness, your insecurities, your lack of control. Silence, on the other hand, is a blade hidden in velvet, subtle, precise, and devastating. When faced with conflict, most erupt, shouting and striking wildly, believing that fury proves strength. Yet those who wield silence dismantle their enemies without ever raising their voice. Silence unsettles in ways rage never can. It denies your opponent the reaction they crave, leaving them to drown in their own noise. They shout, they accuse, they push harder, but your calm absence of response magnifies their instability. In negotiations, silence pressures others to reveal their true motives. In arguments, silence forces the other side to fill the void, often exposing weaknesses. In power struggles, silence asserts dominance, because control over one's tongue is control over the battlefield. Ancient warriors practiced restraint, knowing that the loudest enemy is often the weakest. Anger burns fast, but silence suffocates slowly. It lingers, it gnaws, it unsettles, until your opponent begins to question themselves. Silence is a mirror. It reflects the other's aggression back at them, making them appear foolish while you remain untouchable. Billionaires, kings, and leaders alike use silence as a weapon. A pause at the right moment in a deal can be worth millions. A refusal to retaliate publicly can destroy reputations without a single word spoken. Anger exposes your hand, but silence conceals it. And in the game of power, the unseen strike is always deadlier than the one everyone expects. What you bless grows. There is a force older than money, sharper than strategy, and more magnetic than ambition. The energy of blessing. Whatever you acknowledge with gratitude, respect, or reverence multiplies, while whatever you curse, resent, or scorn diminishes. Ancient traditions knew this well, which is why prayers, rituals, and offerings were woven into daily life. Billionaires and powerful creators may not kneel at altars, but they practice the same principle. What they give positive attention and energy to expands beyond measure. Blessing is not superstition, it is alignment. When you bless something, you shift your perception toward growth, possibility, and abundance. A man who blesses his work, even when small, soon finds opportunities compounding within it. A woman who blesses her wealth, no matter how modest, attracts more because she has aligned herself with increase rather than lack. To bless is to affirm life, to signal to both the subconscious mind and the unseen forces of the world that this is worth growing. The opposite is just as true. Those who despise their jobs, curse their circumstances, or resent others' success unknowingly cut themselves off from growth. Their attention poisons the soil instead of nourishing it. But those who choose to bless, work, relationships, opportunities, even challenges, transform them into fertile ground for expansion. Billionaires often appear endlessly lucky, but beneath that luck is a mindset. They bless every opportunity, every lesson, every door that opens, however small. The energy of blessing is creation itself. It multiplies what you honor. It turns little into much. It makes the invisible forces of life work in your favor, because what you bless cannot help but grow. To know another, observe what angers them. Anger is the great revealer. It strips away masks, shatters pretenses, and exposes the raw truth of a person's soul. While words can be rehearsed and smiles can be faked, anger cannot be disguised. It erupts from the deepest chambers of the self. Billionaires, rulers, and manipulators know this secret well. If you want to understand someone, do not study what they say they love. Study what enrages them. What sparks fury reveals hidden values, fears, and wounds. The one who explodes over disrespect reveals a fragile ego. The one who seethes at betrayal values loyalty above all. The one who burns with jealousy exposes their deepest insecurity. Anger is not random. It is the alarm system of the soul, screaming where one feels weakest, most threatened, or most obsessed. This is why masters provoke as much as they comfort. By pushing buttons, they uncover vulnerabilities that no confession would ever reveal. In negotiations, knowing what irritates your opponent gives you control. In relationships, seeing what ignites someone's rage tells you the story of their past pains. In leadership, understanding the anger of the masses uncovers what they truly desire beneath their silence. Ancient philosophers saw anger as the window into the soul, a mirror of one's inner demons and attachments. To ignore it is to miss the truth. Watch closely, not just when people are calm, but when they boil over. In that fire, they reveal who they are, what they guard, and where they can be broken. Anger unmasks the hidden self, and to know this is to hold power over others far deeper than their words ever could. Mind shapes matter, not the other way around. The world you see is not the cause of your thoughts. It is the effect. Every structure, invention, empire, and fortune first existed as a thought, a vision in the mind of someone who refused to let it dissolve. Matter bends to the will of consciousness, yet most people believe the opposite, that their thoughts are prisoners of circumstance. This illusion keeps them trapped, powerless, and reactive, while those who rule the world quietly master the truth that the mind precedes all creation. When you change your thoughts, you change your reality. A man who believes he is doomed will unconsciously sabotage every opportunity, shaping matter to reflect his despair. A woman who believes she is destined for greatness will unconsciously attract, act, and persist in ways that carve her vision into stone. This is not magic, it is alignment. The mind filters perception, and perception dictates choices, and choices harden into reality. Billionaires use this principle relentlessly. They create visions so vivid that matter has no choice but to arrange itself around them. Steve Jobs imagined devices that didn't exist, and the world bent to his will. Elon Musk dreamed of Mars, and entire industries reshaped themselves to follow. The unshakable belief of the mind pulls resources, people, and events into orbit. Matter is malleable. Buildings crumble, markets collapse, bodies age, but thought endures, thought reshapes, thought commands. The ancients called this the divine spark, the unseen architect that molds the clay of the visible world. To master your mind is to master matter, because the physical is only the shadow of the mental. Detachment attracts, obsession repels. The more desperately you cling, the further what you want slips away. Obsession radiates lack. It reveals hunger, fear, and need. People, opportunities, and even wealth recoil from this energy, sensing the weight of desperation. Detachment, however, is magnetic. It signals power, abundance, and control. What you can walk away from will chase you, and what you chase with obsession will forever run. Billionaires, seducers, and spiritual masters all share this secret. Their strength lies in their ability to remain unattached. In business, the one who can walk from the deal always dictates the terms. In love, the one who does not beg becomes irresistible. In life, those who are free from obsession create space for fortune to flow naturally toward them. Detachment whispers confidence, while obsession screams weakness. Detachment does not mean indifference, it is mastery of self. You can want something without needing it. You can pursue with intensity without allowing desperation to consume you. This creates an aura of control, and control is attractive in every domain. People sense when you have options, when you are not bound to outcomes, when you are already whole. Obsession corrodes. It blinds, it suffocates, it drives people and opportunities away. Detachment liberates. It allows clarity, patience, and timing to work in your favor. The masses believe that gripping harder guarantees success, but the powerful know the paradox. The tighter the grip, the faster it slips. Detachment is not loss, it is leverage, and in that leverage lies the quiet pull that makes everything come to you willingly. Persuasion requires rhythm and pause. Words alone do not persuade. It is not only what you say, but how you deliver it. The rhythm, the timing, the pauses that bends another's will. Persuasion is music disguised as language, and those who master it know that silence between words can be louder than any speech. Billionaires, leaders, and power brokers understand this instinctively. Rhythm captures attention, and pause creates gravity. Human minds are wired to respond to cadence. A steady flow lulls us, repetition ingrains ideas, and a sudden pause jolts us awake. The greatest speakers in history, Caesar, Churchill, Mandela, did not win hearts through vocabulary alone, but through the hypnotic dance of rhythm and silence. A pause before a command makes it land with double the force. A deliberate slowdown before a revelation makes it unforgettable. In business, this technique is used constantly. A negotiator who fills every gap with chatter appears weak. The one who pauses after an offer forces the other side into discomfort, compelling them to speak, to concede, to reveal more than intended. In sales, rhythm builds trust, while pauses create space for desire to grow. In personal influence, rhythm makes your words sink into memory like lyrics, while silence makes them echo in the listener's mind long after you've stopped speaking. Persuasion is not speed, it is control of tempo, the untrained rush to convince, spilling words frantically. The master knows that pause ignites tension, that rhythm guides emotion, that silence itself can command agreement. Influence does not belong to the loudest, it belongs to the one who controls the beat of the conversation. Only fools fight battles. Masters win without conflict. Warriors crave the clash of swords, but true masters know that every battle fought is already a loss. To fight is to waste time, energy, and resources, proving what could have been achieved through strategy. Billionaires, generals, and kings who endure across time share the same wisdom. The highest form of power is not victory in battle, but the art of ensuring the battle never begins. Conflict seduces the ego. It whispers of glory, of triumph, of crushing an enemy beneath your heel. But battles devour empires from within. Every war drains wealth, weakens resolve, and leaves scars that outlast victory. Masters see this clearly and choose a sharper weapon: subtlety. They manipulate rivals into surrendering without a fight, shape narratives until opposition dissolves, and construct positions so strong that enemies break themselves before striking a single blow. Sun Tzu declared that the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. History proved him right. Empires collapsed, not from brute force, but from cunning, alliances, and psychological warfare. A single rumor can topple a kingdom. A whispered promise can dismantle resistance. A well-timed silence can disarm fury more than an army ever could. The master bends opponents to his will long before swords leave their sheaths. He does not waste time wrestling in mud with fools. He controls the field so completely that conflict becomes unnecessary. Only fools mistake violence for strength. Masters know the truth. Real power is invisible, inevitable, and victorious long before the enemy realizes they have already lost. Numbers and patterns reveal hidden doors. The universe speaks in patterns, and numbers are its eternal language. What looks like chaos to the untrained eye is in truth an intricate design, woven with repeating rhythms that reveal where power, opportunity, and fortune lie. The ancients studied the stars and carved sacred geometries into stone because they knew patterns were more than decoration. They were keys to hidden doors. Billionaires and strategists follow the same truth today, quietly watching for the numbers that whisper secrets others overlook. Patterns expose what words conceal. Markets that seem unpredictable are governed by cycles repeating with mathematical precision. Human behavior, thought to be spontaneous, moves in predictable loops that can be measured, tracked, and manipulated. Numbers strip away illusion, leaving only truth behind. Those who can read them see reality as it is, not as it pretends to be. Numbers do not lie, but most people are blind to their meaning. They chase emotions while the powerful track metrics. They cling to stories while the wise follow data. Every empire, every fortune, every revolution is preceded by patterns the crowd ignores until it is too late. The investor who sees the trend before the masses harvests fortunes. The leader who spots the hidden rhythm of behavior commands loyalty without struggle. Numbers and patterns are the fingerprints of order hiding beneath chaos. They are maps to invisible doors that only open for those who recognize the sequence. To the unaware, life is random, cruel, and uncertain. To the pattern reader, life is predictable, navigable, and full of pathways others cannot see. Those hidden doors lead to power, and only numbers carry the keys. The most valuable truths circulate in whispers. The truths that can change your life, shift empires, and unlock fortunes are rarely shouted from podiums or broadcast in headlines. They move quietly, carried from one guarded conversation to another, spoken in whispers between those who already hold power. The loud truths belong to the masses, safe, diluted, and stripped of their potency, but the truths that matter most are hidden, protected, and passed only to those deemed ready to receive them. History is filled with whispers that shaped destiny. A secret alliance sealed in a quiet meeting altered the fate of nations. A hushed conversation about a coming market shift made fortunes before the news ever reached the public. A whispered piece of wisdom from a mentor changed the trajectory of a single life, creating ripples that span generations. These whispers are not accidents. They are signals passed along invisible channels of trust, belonging, and secrecy. Billionaires and power brokers understand this better than anyone. They are not chasing what is announced. They are listening for what is hinted at, what is concealed between the lines, what is spoken behind closed doors. The greatest opportunities never arrive packaged neatly for everyone to see. They are hidden inside networks of quiet exchanges. The reason whispers carry such weight is simple. What is shouted loses power through exposure, but what is whispered gains power through rarity. Scarcity makes it sacred. When you are invited into a whisper, you are being given more than information. You are being given access. And access, more than knowledge, is the true key to power. Hidden hands guide visible leaders. The world worships the figures it sees. Presidents, CEOs, celebrities, kings, believing they alone wield power. But true influence rarely sits on the throne. It moves in the shadows, behind curtains, in whispers that never make the stage. Hidden hands guide visible leaders, shaping decisions, pulling strings, and orchestrating outcomes while the crowd stares at the puppet, blind to the puppeteer. History is filled with these unseen forces. Advisors who never wore crowns shaped empires. Bankers and financiers dictated the fates of nations. Quiet strategists designed wars, treaties, and revolutions while their chosen figureheads played the role of hero or villain. The masses are distracted by spectacle, but those who study closely see the outlines of the invisible hand. The billionaire class knows this truth. Power is safer, stronger, and more enduring when it is unseen. The hidden hand does not crave recognition, because recognition is a cage. To be seen is to be targeted. To remain unseen is to move freely. Visible leaders absorb the blame, the praise, the scrutiny, while those in the shadows grow untouchable. This is why advisors, investors, and behind-the-scenes power brokers often outlast the icons they control. Even in modern times, the pattern repeats. Politicians rise and fall, CEOs come and go, celebrities flash and fade, but the same families, networks, and financiers remain, guiding outcomes quietly. To chase visible power is to play the game at its shallowest level. To understand hidden influence is to see the true architecture of control. Leaders speak, but it is the silent hand that writes the script. Attention shapes reality more than resources. Reality bends not to the one with the most wealth, land, or armies, but to the one who controls attention. Where attention flows, energy follows, and where energy concentrates, reality reshapes itself. Billionaires, leaders, and manipulators quietly understand this. Resources without attention are invisible, but even the smallest resource magnified by attention can transform into an empire. Human beings are wired to see only what they focus on. A starving man sees food everywhere. A jealous lover sees betrayal in every glance. An investor sees opportunities others overlook. Attention is the lens that turns possibility into reality. This is why the media, religion, and politics have always fought, not for truth, but for attention. He who owns the gaze of the masses owns their choices, their fears, and their wallets. Even in personal power, attention decides outcomes. A confident man steps into a room and directs all eyes to him without uttering a word, shifting the reality of everyone present. A brand with little money but relentless focus on storytelling can eclipse a giant with deeper pockets but scattered messaging. The universe itself follows this law. What you focus on expands, what you ignore withers into dust. Resources matter, but they are secondary. Without attention, gold lies buried, ideas rot unspoken, and armies sit idle. With attention, even nothing can be spun into something. Illusions into movements, visions into kingdoms. Masters do not chase resources. They command attention, knowing it is the seed from which every fortune, every empire, every destiny is grown. Reality itself is sculpted by where the human eye dares to linger. Abundance responds to gratitude like a command. Gratitude is more than courtesy. It is a force that bends reality. When expressed with sincerity, gratitude operates like a signal to the unseen, commanding more of what is acknowledged to flow towards you. The masses view gratitude as something polite to practice after receiving, but the powerful understand it as a tool to summon abundance before it arrives. To feel gratitude for what is not yet visible is to align yourself with the rhythm of gain, pulling wealth, opportunity, and allies closer as if by law. The psychology is undeniable. What you focus on expands. A mind filled with complaints magnetizes lack, while a mind saturated with gratitude becomes fertile ground for growth. Billionaires and empire builders know this truth. They begin their days by counting blessings, not because they are sentimental, but because gratitude shifts perception. When you are grateful, you see opportunities others miss. When you are grateful, you radiate confidence and attract allies who want to work with you. Gratitude rewires the subconscious to expect plenty, and expectation is a magnet for fulfillment. Ancient mystics taught gratitude as prayer, while modern science measures its effects on the brain, proving it reduces fear and increases resilience. Yet its greatest power lies in the invisible. The universe, markets, and even people respond to gratitude as if it were praise, rushing to give more of what is appreciated. Gratitude is not weakness. It is command disguised as humility. The one who masters it no longer chases abundance. Abundance chases them. The wise invest in things that outlast them. The short-sighted chase profits they can spend today, but the truly powerful build legacies that breathe long after they are gone. Wealth that vanishes with its owner is not wealth at all. It is temporary possession. The wise understand that the only investments worth making are those that outlive them. Ideas, structures, empires, and values that ripple through time. Billionaires and ancient kings alike knew that their own lives were fleeting, but their creations could become immortal if built correctly. This is why dynasties exist. It is why monuments rise, why books are written, why foundations are built. To invest only in the present is to gamble on sand, but to invest in what endures is to carve your name into stone. The wise pour their energy into assets that cannot be erased overnight. Education, systems, land, networks, innovations. These are seeds that grow even when the sower has turned to dust. The tragedy of most lives is that they burn themselves out chasing comforts that die with them. The powerful refuse this trap. They see time differently, playing not for years but for centuries. They ask, will this still matter when I am gone? And if the answer is no, they turn away. The masses live for consumption. The wise live for construction. To invest in what outlasts you is to transcend death itself. It is to leave behind more than bones and memories. It is to plant pillars that future generations lean on, never knowing whose hands first built them. That is the true currency of immortality. Illusion is the preferred tool of rulers. Power does not survive on force alone, it survives on belief. Rulers throughout history have known that illusion is the sharpest weapon, stronger than armies and more enduring than laws. To control what people see, to shape what they believe to be true, is to control their choices without ever raising a sword. Illusion is the art of bending perception until reality itself obeys. Kings wrap themselves in divine right, convincing the masses they ruled by heaven's will. Pharaohs built monuments so vast they seemed immortal, even though flesh rotted like any other man's. Modern rulers, billionaires, and leaders cloak themselves in brands, narratives, and carefully crafted images that make them appear inevitable. It is not their raw strength that commands loyalty. It is the illusion of invincibility, wisdom, or benevolence that keeps people in line. Illusion seduces because the human mind craves certainty, stories, and symbols. Most people do not want the raw chaos of truth. They want a vision that feels safe to follow. Rulers feed this need, offering masks that conceal the machinery of power. The public sees the glow of charisma, the carefully staged success, the polished speeches, while behind the curtain lies strategy, manipulation, and deals never spoken aloud. This is why illusion is more efficient than violence. Force breaks bodies, but illusion captures souls. The ruler who controls appearances can rule millions with a whisper, while the one who relies only on strength must crush rebellion endlessly. Illusion is the invisible leash, accepted willingly, defended fiercely, and almost never questioned. The wisest rulers know, control the vision, and you control the world. Fear is the greatest currency of control. Gold buys loyalty, power buys respect, but fear buys obedience, the most immediate and reliable form of control. Throughout history, kings, dictators, and corporations alike have wielded fear not as a byproduct of power, but as its very foundation. Billionaires and rulers know a chilling truth. People will resist reason, reject facts, even abandon love, but they will almost always bow to fear. Fear shuts down logic. It hijacks the nervous system, silencing rational thought and triggering primal survival instincts. A fearful mind cannot question. It can only obey. This is why governments use threats of enemies, why religions warn of damnation, why markets spike and crash on whispers of uncertainty. Fear makes the masses predictable, and predictability is the ultimate tool of control. The psychology is simple. A man who loves you may betray you, but a man who fears you will obey even against his will. A population distracted by fear will cling to any authority promising safety, no matter the cost. A competitor trembling with anxiety will make mistakes you never have to force. Fear is a leash invisible to the eye, but stronger than chains of iron. But the greatest masters wield fear with precision. Too much, and it sparks rebellion. Too little, and it loses its bite. The true art is balance, keeping people uneasy enough to stay submissive, but not enough to rise up. Those who control wealth or armies hold influence for a season. Those who master fear hold dominion over souls. For when fear takes root, it owns decisions, shapes destinies, and becomes the most valuable currency ever minted in the dark vaults of power. Real fortune hides in what others ignore. The crowd always rushes toward the obvious, chasing trends, noise, and glittering distractions. They seek fortune where everyone else is already digging, never realizing that the richest treasures lie buried in the forgotten, the overlooked, and the dismissed. Real fortune is never where the spotlight shines. It hides in the shadows, waiting for the eyes brave enough to look where others refuse. History proves this law mercilessly. Oil fields sat untouched until someone saw value in black liquid others thought worthless. Land in barren deserts became cities of gold when visionaries imagined water and glass towers. Companies laughed at the internet until those who believed in it became titans. What others ignore becomes a wasteland to the blind, but to the few with vision, it is a gold mine. Billionaires train themselves to see opportunity where the herd sees nothing. They look for inefficiencies, for industries considered boring, for ideas mocked by experts. They know the masses are hypnotized by novelty and spectacle, so they search in the quiet corners, the dull details, the overlooked patterns that others dismiss as irrelevant. There, in obscurity, they find leverage. The reason fortune hides in the ignored is because attention is a finite resource. The world cannot look everywhere at once. When the majority looks one way, value gathers in the other. This is why the powerful thrive in silence, while the masses drown in noise. To find what is ignored is to see with different eyes, to pierce illusion, and to gather riches where others see only dust. Never reveal your true source of power. Power that is exposed is power that can be attacked. The greatest mistake the ambitious make is flaunting the very thing that sustains their strength. Enemies strike where they can see, rivals scheme against what they can measure, and the crowd always seeks to dismantle what it envies. This is why the truly powerful guard their source of strength with secrecy, wrapping it in layers of misdirection while the world stares at illusions. Billionaires may speak of luck, timing, or vision, but their true advantage often lies elsewhere. An unseen alliance, a hidden system, a knowledge they will never disclose. Ancient rulers did the same, cloaking their authority in mystery so their subjects could never locate the lever that held the empire together. By keeping the origin of their power invisible, they ensured no one could steal, copy, or destroy it. Revealing your source of power makes you predictable, and predictability is weakness. If people know exactly how you win, they can dismantle you. But if they only see fragments, if they only taste shadows of your strength, they are left guessing, fearing, and overestimating your reach. That uncertainty multiplies your influence. The wise deliberately mislead, offering false explanations for their success, allowing others to chase decoys while the real source remains untouchable. This is not paranoia, it is survival. History is filled with fallen giants undone because they reveal too much. Power thrives in opacity, not exposure. To never reveal your true source of power is to remain untouchable, moving freely while others strike at ghosts. Symbols outlive kings. A king may reign for decades, a billionaire may dominate markets for a lifetime, but both eventually fall to time. Flesh decays, empires crumble, names fade. Yet symbols, those simple marks, words, or images charged with meaning, outlast them all. Symbols are immortality condensed into form, carrying power across centuries, guiding nations, igniting revolutions, and preserving legacies long after their creators are dust. Ancient rulers understood this truth. Pharaohs carved their likenesses into stone, not just to be remembered, but to project divine authority across millennia. Religious icons, flags, and emblems outlived the hands that first raised them, embedding themselves so deeply into human consciousness that they become eternal. A crown still commands respect, even if the monarch is forgotten. A cross, a star, or a circle can move millions with a glance, while the kings who first wielded them are little more than names in history books. Modern power operates no differently. Corporations rise and fall, but their logos remain etched into the collective psyche. Nations change leaders, but their flags endure, uniting people who have never met under shared identity. Billionaires build brands that persist beyond their lifetimes, knowing that wealth alone dies, but symbols carry influence across generations. The reason is simple. Symbols bypass logic and speak directly to the subconscious. They ignite emotion, loyalty, fear, or devotion without a word spoken. A man may resist a king, but he will fight and die for a symbol. Those who understand this truth invest not only in building empires, but in crafting symbols that outlive them, ensuring their presence lingers even after their bodies vanish. Kings die, but symbols rule forever. Those who understand cycles harvest endlessly. Life does not move in straight lines. It turns in circles. Wealth, power, love, health, empires, and even civilizations rise, peak, decline, and return, again in endless rhythm. Those who ignore cycles are forever surprised, mistaking decline for disaster and growth for luck. But those who understand cycles, those who study the rise and fall of patterns, become harvesters of abundance. They know exactly when to plant, when to wait, and when to reap. Ancient farmers bow to this wisdom, timing their sowing with the seasons and the moon. Traders on the Silk Road followed cycles of demand and scarcity. Markets today, though dressed in technology and speed, are no different. Fear and greed cycle predictably. Bubbles inflate and burst, economies rise and fall, and fortunes are made not by chance, but by recognizing where in the cycle one stands. Billionaires and empires thrive not by resisting the wheel of time, but by riding it. The masses lose because they fight the cycle. They buy when it's too late, panic when decline is inevitable, and chase highs when the wise are already preparing for winter. But the master of cycles is never frantic. He expects the storm, welcomes the winter, and positions himself for the spring that always follows. Understanding cycles brings a terrifying advantage. While others are crushed beneath repeating patterns, the wise align with them, reaping endlessly where others starve. To see the cycles is to see the future. To align with them is to hold dominion over time itself. Those who understand cycles do not merely survive. They harvest endlessly, season after season, while the rest wander blind. Imagination is the architect of wealth. Every fortune begins as a vision in the unseen realm of the mind. Imagination is not fantasy. It is the blueprint from which reality is carved. Before steel rises into towers, before empires stretch across continents, before billion-dollar companies dominate markets, they all exist first as fragile sparks of imagination in someone's mind. Wealth does not begin with resources. It begins with the ability to see what does not yet exist and to believe it into being. The masses dismiss imagination as childish, a distraction reserved for dreamers, but the powerful know it is the highest form of creation. Billionaires build futures by daring to imagine what others cannot even picture. They imagine technologies that reshape civilization, businesses that redefine industries, lifestyles that rewrite culture. Imagination allows them to step into tomorrow before the rest of the world has left today, and in doing so, they claim the treasures waiting there. Imagination bends reality because it programs the subconscious to search for alignment. A vividly imagined future compels the mind to notice opportunities that lead toward it, like a magnet pulling iron through dust. Those without imagination drift, reacting to what already exists. Those with imagination dictate what will exist. The ancients called imagination the divine spark, the bridge between the human and the infinite. To imagine is to create a world twice, first in the mind, then in matter. The poor may cling to what they can touch, but the wealthy invest in what they can envision. Imagination is not escape, it is architecture, and wealth is the structure it builds. Those who control food control destiny. Food has always been more than sustenance. It is survival, leverage, and the silent chain binding entire civilizations. From the moment humanity gathered in tribes, those who controlled food decided who lived and who starved, who rose to power and who fell into ruin. Kings, empires, and billionaires alike have understood this. To control food is to control destiny itself. History proves it. Ancient rulers stockpiled grain not for abundance, but for dominance, releasing it when loyalty was needed and withholding it when rebellion stirred. Conquerors burned crops to break enemies faster than swords ever could. Even today, modern power hides behind agriculture, supply chains, and corporations that quietly dictate who eats and who goes hungry. Armies may march with weapons, but they cannot march without bread. Nations may roar with pride, but they collapse when their people starve. Food is the primal leash on humanity. It commands obedience without words, shaping politics, culture, and survival itself. Those who understand this wield invisible power because hunger overrides ideology, morality, even fear. A starving man does not care about freedom. He obeys whoever feeds him. A dependent population can be ruled forever by the hand that provides its sustenance. Billionaires invest in farmland, water rights, and seed companies not for charity, but because they know that food is the foundation of all power. Money may build empires, but only food keeps them alive. To control it is to write the fate of nations, to determine who thrives and who falls. Those who hold food do not just feed bodies, they command futures. Breath is the key to unseen reserves of energy. The most powerful tool you carry is not your wealth, not your intellect, not even your will. It is your breath. Often ignored, taken for granted, treated as automatic, breath is the doorway to hidden reserves of strength, focus, and vitality that most will never touch. Ancient warriors, monks, and sages built entire systems of mastery around breathing because they knew what modern billionaires, athletes, and visionaries also practice quietly. Control the breath, and you control the mind, the body, and the flow of energy itself. Shallow breath chains you to weakness. It keeps you anxious, distracted, and fatigued, burning through your energy while leaving you empty. But deep, deliberate breath awakens dormant power. It slows the heartbeat, sharpens awareness, and unlocks calm even in the midst of chaos. In negotiations, steady breath keeps you unreadable. In stress, it anchors your will when others panic. In creation, it floods the brain with oxygen, unlocking clarity and insight when the mind feels clouded. Breath is the switch between states of being. Quick inhalations can summon fire and intensity. Long exhalations can summon stillness and control. Those who master their breath can summon energy on demand, recover from fatigue faster than others, and remain composed under pressure that breaks the untrained. This is why elite performers and powerful leaders use breathwork as ritual. They may not boast about it, but they know that wealth means nothing without energy, and energy begins with air. Breath is life's first act and its last. To command it consciously is to unlock the hidden reserves within you that others will never find. Wealth comes faster when shared selectively. Wealth hoarded stagnates, but wealth shared with precision multiplies. The powerful know that money, knowledge, and opportunity are not meant to be sprayed in every direction. They are weapons, and weapons must be placed in the right hands. Billionaires, rulers, and visionaries have long practiced the art of selective generosity. They give, but never blindly. They share, but always with intention. And in that calculated flow, their fortunes expand far beyond what they could have built alone. The psychology is simple. Humans are wired for reciprocity. When resources are offered strategically, loyalty is forged, alliances are built, and doors open that money alone could never unlock. A well-placed gift to the right ally creates an empire of favors. A single opportunity given to the right mind returns 100-fold. But scatter your wealth recklessly, and it vanishes like water in sand, leaving nothing but dependence and resentment. History proves this. Ancient kings rewarded only the warriors and scholars who strengthened their reign. Merchant families funded explorers and innovators who expanded their reach. Modern billionaires seed capital into ventures, partnerships, and networks that return rivers of profit. They are not philanthropists of chance. They are architects of wealth ecosystems. The masses misunderstand, believing generosity is virtue in itself. Masters know generosity must be aimed like an arrow. To share selectively is to plant seeds in fertile ground rather than waste them on barren soil. Wealth, when placed with precision, grows faster than it ever could in isolation. The secret is not giving endlessly. It is giving strategically, so that what leaves your hand returns multiplied, carrying the loyalty, influence, and power of those you chose to empower. Vision is more valuable than sight. Sight is limited to what stands before you, but vision pierces the veil of the present and reaches into the future. Sight sees the world as it is. Vision sees the world as it could be. The masses rely only on sight, trapped in the prison of the immediate, reacting to circumstances and chasing what is already visible. But the powerful move with vision, shaping circumstances before they exist, claiming opportunities long before the crowd even notices them. Vision transforms obstacles into stepping stones. Where others see failure, visionaries see the seed of reinvention. Where others see barren land, they imagine cities. Where others see impossible odds, they imagine empires. It is this ability to see beyond the moment that separates leaders from followers, builders from consumers, billionaires from the masses. Sight responds, vision creates. Billionaires are not worshippers of the present. They are architects of the unseen. They endure ridicule and skepticism because vision is invisible to those with only sight. The internet was once a fantasy, space travel a dream, electric cars a joke. Yet those with vision bent entire industries to their will, while the world laughed. By the time sight caught up, fortunes were already made. The ancients revered prophets and seers not for their eyes, but for their vision, the ability to see patterns stretching beyond the horizon. Vision is more valuable than sight because it commands the future, while sight only describes the present. To live by sight alone is to crawl in darkness. To live by vision is to move as though tomorrow already belongs to you. Long-term compounding appears supernatural. There is a force so deceptively simple that most dismiss it, yet so powerful that it can turn the smallest effort into an empire. That force is compounding. To the impatient, it looks slow, boring, and insignificant. But to the wise, it is the closest thing to magic in the material world. Long-term compounding does not just build wealth. It bends time, turning tiny, almost invisible actions into outcomes so vast they seem supernatural. Compounding is the quiet multiplication of effort. $1 reinvested, one skill practiced daily, one habit repeated consistently. These are drops of water that over years carve canyons and move mountains. Billionaires and visionaries know this secret. Their fortunes were not explosions of luck, but the steady stacking of gains upon gains, each year accelerating faster than the last. To outsiders, it looks like sudden success. To insiders, it is inevitability. The human mind struggles to grasp exponential growth. We expect linear results, so when compounding erupts, it feels like a miracle. This is why most quit too soon, abandoning their seeds before the harvest. The early stages of compounding feel like nothing, slow, unrewarding, invisible. But those who endure, who keep planting, who keep reinvesting, awaken one day to find what was once small has become unstoppable. This is why the disciplined appear blessed by gods. Their patience, their refusal to break the chain, creates results so massive they defy logic. Long-term compounding is not supernatural. It only appears that way to those who never had the endurance to witness its power unfold. Fasting sharpens perception. To go without food is to unlock a clarity most will never know. The body resists it. The mind fears it. Society ridicules it. Yet fasting has been revered for thousands of years as the key to sharpening perception and awakening hidden power. When you strip the body of constant consumption, the fog begins to lift. Hunger becomes fuel, silence replaces noise, and the senses heighten until the world feels sharper, clearer, more alive. Ancient warriors fasted before battle to move with precision and heighten instinct. Prophets and sages fasted to hear what could not be heard in the noise of indulgence. Today, billionaires and high performers practice fasting not for religion, but for dominance, because they know it rewires the mind. With no constant digestion to dull energy, the brain becomes razor sharp, thinking faster, perceiving deeper, creating connections hidden under the haze of fullness. Fasting also teaches mastery over desire. To deny food, the most primal urge is to prove to yourself that you are not a slave to cravings. Once hunger bends to your will, other impulses follow: anger, fear, greed, lust. Self-control grows stronger, and with it comes the kind of focus that bends reality. Science now confirms what ancients already knew. Fasting awakens processes in the body that heal, restore, and optimize. But beyond the biology lies something greater, the raw intensity of heightened perception, the quiet strength of knowing you can go without. In emptiness, vision expands. In restraint, awareness sharpens. The man who can fast is the man who can see further than others and act when they are blind. Ritualized mornings control the rest of the day. The first hour after waking is the throne upon which the rest of the day sits. The masses stumble into it half asleep, clutching their phones, drowning themselves in noise before their minds are even their own. But the powerful guard their mornings with ritual, because they know that whoever commands the beginning controls everything that follows. Ritualized mornings are not superstition. They are the invisible architecture of dominance. A ritualized morning anchors the mind before the world can invade it. Breathwork calms the nervous system, meditation sharpens focus, movement awakens the body, and deliberate intention sets the course. These small acts act as keystones, bending the flow of the day toward clarity and strength. Without them, the day belongs to chaos. With them, time itself bends to the will of the one who began it in command. Ancient warriors prepared for battle with morning rites. Monks greeted the dawn with chants and silence. Even modern billionaires design strict morning routines, not for productivity alone, but for sovereignty over their own minds. When the first act of your day is ritual, you declare to the world that you are master, not servant, of your time. The undisciplined wake reactive, already behind, responding to emails, alarms, and demands. Their day is stolen before it begins. The disciplined wake proactive, carving out silence and structure, ensuring that everything after bends to their rhythm. Ritualized mornings are the lever that moves the weight of the entire day. He who controls the morning does not simply win the hours. He seizes the crown of the day before anyone else has drawn their sword. To change outcomes, alter the story. The world is ruled not by facts, but by stories. Nations rise on myths, religions endure through parables, companies thrive on narratives, and individuals are judged by the tales told about them. Reality is fluid because human beings do not act on truth. They act on the story they believe. This is why those who control stories control outcomes. To shift the narrative is to shift destiny itself. A story is a lens that bends perception. Tell someone they are cursed, and they will stumble as if cursed. Tell someone they are destined for greatness, and they will walk with a different fire. The same situation, seen through two stories, produces two entirely different outcomes. Billionaires understand this law intimately. They do not merely sell products, they sell visions. Apple did not sell electronics, it sold a story of rebellion and creativity. Tesla does not sell cars, it sells a story of a future beyond fossil fuel. Stories rewrite what people believe is possible, and belief drives action. On a personal level, the stories you tell yourself are contracts with reality. If your inner story is one of limitation, you will unconsciously sabotage your chances. If your story is one of power and inevitability, you will endure what others cannot, because the narrative fuels your resilience. The world bends to those who refuse to accept the old story and have the courage to tell a new one. Outcomes do not change because facts change. They change because the story surrounding those facts is rewritten. To alter the story is to alter the script of life itself. Sacrifice something small to gain something great. Every ascent demands a trade. To rise, you must be willing to lay something down. Comfort, indulgence, distraction, or pride. The masses cling desperately to the small, and in doing so, they forfeit the great. But the powerful understand an ancient law. Greatness is bought with sacrifice, and the price is always something lesser than what will come. History is built on such trades. The warrior gives up peace to earn glory. The inventor sacrifices sleep to birth a creation. The billionaire forfeits leisure in the early years to enjoy freedom for the rest of life. Sacrifice is not loss, it is investment. To give up a small pleasure today is to purchase a kingdom tomorrow, yet most people cannot bear to release what is easy, and so they remain chained to mediocrity. Sacrifice is a test, a gatekeeper. It asks, are you willing to endure short-term pain for long-term power? The answer determines who ascends and who remains behind. Those who refuse sacrifice become slaves to their cravings, while those who embrace it become masters of destiny. Every great figure you admire has scars where small comforts were torn away to make room for something eternal. Billionaires and conquerors play this law with precision. They know that surrendering something trivial, an hour of idleness, an impulse for pleasure, an unnecessary expense, multiplies into something magnificent over time. The world belongs to those who trade the immediate for the infinite. Sacrifice is not punishment. It is the silent currency with which greatness is purchased. Observe the moon. It rules more than tides. The moon is more than a pale ornament hanging in the night sky. It is a silent force that pulls at the hidden strings of life. Science admits its gravity stirs the oceans, commanding tides with unshakable rhythm. But ancient wisdom goes further, knowing the moon's power reaches into the human spirit, shaping moods, cycles, fertility, and even the rhythm of thought. To ignore the moon is to ignore a clock older than civilization, a force that has guided farmers, sailors, kings, and mystics for millennia. The ancients lived by it. Harvests, rituals, and wars were timed with its waxing and waning because they knew human energy rises and falls in sync with lunar phases. Even today, people unknowingly feel its pull, restless under a full moon, contemplative in its darkness, driven as it waxes, emptied as it wanes. Billionaires and visionaries may not chant under its light, but they respect cycles, and the moon is the most visible teacher of cycles. Its phases remind the wise that growth is never constant, that power expands and contracts, and that timing is as vital as effort. The moon also rules symbolically, commanding the unconscious. Myths, dreams, and symbols throughout history tie it to intuition, madness, mystery, the shadow side of human nature that logic cannot tame. Those who observe it closely learn to anticipate shifts not just in water and weather, but in people, markets, and movements. The moon teaches that unseen forces govern visible reality. It shows that rhythm, not chaos, rules the world. To observe the moon is to remember that everything, wealth, power, influence, ebbs and flows under forces greater than ourselves. Those who align with its pull move effortlessly, while others fight against invisible tides. Stillness is the greatest weapon. In a world addicted to motion, stillness is mistaken for weakness, but the wise know it is the sharpest blade of all. Stillness is not passivity, it is control. It is the refusal to be dragged by impulse, the discipline to withhold reaction, the power to let others exhaust themselves while you conserve your strength. Billionaires, warriors, and mystics wield stillness as their greatest weapon because it unsettles enemies and magnifies their own clarity. When you are still, you see what the restless miss. You notice the twitch in your rival's face, the hesitation in their tone, the cracks in their armor. Stillness sharpens perception, and perception wins battles before they begin. The impatient expose themselves in their haste, while the still one watches, gathers, and strikes with precision only when the moment is inevitable. History bends toward those who mastered this art. Generals who held their armies back until the perfect instant crushed enemies who had already wasted their strength. Negotiators who endured long silences extracted victories without lifting their voices. Sages and monks found in stillness the power to command their own minds, making them unbreakable even when empires tried to crush them. The masses fear silence and stillness because it forces them to face themselves, but the master embraces it, for in stillness he becomes immovable, untouchable, terrifying. Motion is predictable, noise is easy to counter, but stillness is unreadable. It draws others into discomfort, making them reveal themselves while you remain hidden, strong, and patient. Stillness does not just defend, it conquers, because nothing is more dangerous than the one who cannot be moved. Hidden alliances outweigh public promises. What is spoken in the open is rarely where true power lies. Public promises are for appearances, for the masses, the cameras, and the applause. They are fragile, easily broken, and often made only to pacify or deceive. Hidden alliances, however, are the real architecture of power. They are forged in silence, behind closed doors, sealed not by words, but by mutual interest, leverage, and necessity. These unseen bonds outweigh any public declaration because they operate beneath scrutiny, immune to the judgment of the crowd. History is littered with examples. Wars were won not by the armies the world could see, but by the secret treaties and covert agreements that shaped their strategies. Empires rose through marriages and handshakes never announced to the public. In modern times, billionaires and politicians cultivate networks that the world will never hear about, because influence that is invisible cannot be challenged. The smiling photo at a press conference is theater. The whispered deal over dinner is reality. Hidden alliances are powerful because they bind people through shared secrets and shared risks. A public promise can be broken with excuses, but a secret pact carries the weight of exposure if betrayed. It forces loyalty in a way no speech ever could. Those who understand this law do not waste energy chasing approval through grand statements. They invest in relationships that the world does not see, knowing that invisible threads pull harder than visible chains. The crowd hears promises, the powerful trust in silence, and it is always the hidden hand, not the public word, that moves the world. The greatest fortunes come from serving the unseen needs. The world is filled with people chasing what everyone else can already see: obvious markets, loud demands, visible problems. But the true empires, the fortunes that appear untouchable, are built by those who look deeper. The greatest wealth does not come from satisfying the surface-level wants of the masses, but from uncovering the invisible needs they themselves cannot articulate. The unseen shapes the seen, and those who serve it rise above all others. Every breakthrough follows this law. The masses wanted faster horses, but visionaries gave them automobiles. People never cried out for glowing screens in their pockets, yet smartphones became indispensable. Consumers did not beg for social networks, yet they now live inside them. These fortunes were built not on what people said they wanted, but on what they silently needed: connection, speed, belonging, status. The unseen needs are primal. They live in the subconscious: safety, love, identity, freedom, validation. Billionaires do not ask, "What do people say they want?" but "What do people truly crave without knowing it?" By answering that question, they create products and systems that hook into the very wiring of human nature. The tragedy is that most chase what is obvious, where competition is endless and rewards are small. The powerful, however, search for what lies beneath, the hidden hunger no one has yet named. To serve the unseen is to step into a void and return with gold. The greatest fortunes always emerge from satisfying what the world needed most, long before it ever asked. Language encodes reality. Words are not mere symbols, they are spells. Every sentence spoken, every phrase repeated, carries the power to shape thought, carve identity, and bend reality itself. Ancient cultures knew this truth, which is why they guarded language as sacred. Chants, prayers, and mantras were not casual. They were keys that unlocked hidden states of mind and shifted the course of events. Today, billionaires, leaders, and manipulators wield the same weapon in quieter ways, knowing that language does not just describe reality, it encodes it. The words you use to speak about yourself become the boundaries of your existence. Call yourself unlucky, and your mind filters the world to confirm it. Declare yourself powerful, and your perception shifts until the world reflects that belief. Nations are built and destroyed by language, propaganda, slogans, declarations. A single phrase can ignite revolutions, topple kings, or bind millions under a shared vision. Language seeps into the subconscious, shaping not just what you think, but what you see as possible. Billionaires craft narratives around their companies, not just to sell products, but to reprogram how the world perceives them. Politicians bend crowds with carefully chosen words, each carrying hidden emotional weight. Even in personal relationships, words either build trust or plant seeds of doubt that grow like weeds. The most dangerous part is that most people speak carelessly, unaware they are casting spells on themselves and others. They scatter phrases of weakness, complaint, and limitation without realizing they are programming failure. The powerful choose words like architects, crafting realities that others unconsciously step into. Language is not decoration, it is the code that writes the world. To change someone's mind, enter their rhythm. Persuasion is not about force, it is about harmony. You cannot shove new beliefs into someone's mind by clashing against their tempo. The mind resists what feels foreign, but it welcomes what feels familiar. This is why masters of influence know the secret. To change someone's mind, you must first enter their rhythm. Step into their pace, mirror their cadence, breathe in sync with their energy, and only then can you begin to guide them somewhere new. Human beings are wired to trust familiarity. We feel safest around those who move, speak, and respond as we do. This is why friends unconsciously adopt each other's mannerisms, why couples mirror gestures, why crowds chant and sway together. Rhythm is the hidden language of connection. When you match another's rhythm, their defenses fall. Their subconscious whispers, "This one is like me." In that moment, influence becomes effortless. Great negotiators speak in the same tone and speed as their opponents before leading them to agreement. Leaders rally crowds by matching their emotional intensity before shifting it toward inspiration. Even con artists exploit this principle, aligning perfectly with a victim's mood before steering them into decisions they would never make otherwise. The rhythm is the doorway. Once inside, you can gradually alter the tempo, slowing a heated argument, quickening a dull conversation, lifting despair into hope. The one who controls rhythm controls perception, and the one who controls perception controls decisions. To change someone's mind is not to fight it, it is to move with it until they are no longer aware that they are dancing to your beat. Knowing what not to pursue creates fortune. The masses believe fortune comes from doing more, chasing every opportunity, saying yes to every offer, scattering their energy across endless pursuits. But wealth is not built by chasing everything. It is built by rejecting most things. The powerful understand that every yes is also a no to something else, and that knowing what not to pursue is often more valuable than knowing what to chase. Fortune is created not just by action, but by ruthless elimination. Opportunities are infinite, but energy is not. Every path demands time, attention, and sacrifice. Those who cannot say no become slaves to distraction, forever busy but never wealthy. Billionaires guard their focus like a fortress. They are not seduced by every shiny object because they know the cost of divided effort. By saying no to 99 things, they make space for the one that changes everything. History shows that the greatest fortunes were built not on the abundance of options, but on the discipline to discard them. Rockefeller ignored trends and focused only on oil. Warren Buffett skips nearly every investment and waits for the rare pitch he knows he can hit out of the park. Steve Jobs cut down Apple's sprawling projects to just a few, and those few reshaped the world. The act of refusal is power. It is the ability to resist temptation, to silence noise, to endure the fear of missing out while others scatter themselves thin. Knowing what not to pursue creates fortune, because it concentrates force. A magnifying glass does not burn by letting light scatter. It burns by narrowing it to one relentless point. Sleep is the most undervalued wealth tool. In a culture that glorifies exhaustion and worships busyness, sleep is dismissed as weakness, yet nothing could be further from the truth. Sleep is not idleness. It is the hidden workshop of the mind and body, the silent engine that powers clarity, creativity, and longevity. Billionaires and elite performers understand this. Sleep is not wasted time. It is the most undervalued wealth tool available to humanity. During sleep, the brain resets and reorganizes. Connections are strengthened, problems are solved, ideas crystallize. Entire breakthroughs have been born in dreams, insights delivered not through grinding effort, but through surrender to rest. Sleep repairs the body, fortifies the immune system, and sharpens decision-making, the very foundation upon which fortunes are built. To neglect it is to sabotage yourself at the most fundamental level. The masses wear sleeplessness like a badge of honor, dragging themselves through life in a fog, confusing motion with progress, but the powerful guard their rest with ferocity. They understand that 1 hour of high-quality focus, born from deep rest, is worth more than 10 hours of exhausted labor. They know that sleep fuels patience, emotional control, and foresight, qualities without which empires collapse. Sleep is not a luxury, it is leverage. It is the multiplier that allows the mind to see angles others miss, the body to endure stresses others cannot, the spirit to remain unshaken when chaos erupts. To undervalue sleep is to devalue the very machine through which wealth, power, and legacy are created. Those who master rest awaken with an advantage that no amount of brute force can replicate. Death is the greatest teacher of value. Nothing strips illusion faster than death. In its shadow, the trivial vanishes, and the true weight of life reveals itself. Death is the silent instructor that reminds kings their crowns will rust, billionaires their empires will scatter, and every human that time is the only currency that cannot be replenished. Those who dare to look death in the eye learn what most spend their lives avoiding. That value is not in how long you hold something, but in how deeply you experience it before it's gone. The ancients built entire philosophies around death's inevitability. The Stoics meditated daily on their mortality, not to sink into despair, but to sharpen their priorities. Warriors carried the awareness of death into battle, which gave them courage, for what is there to fear when the worst has already been accepted? Even rulers carved reminders of skulls into their palaces, so they would not mistake temporary power for eternal life. Billionaires who grasp this truth move differently. They spend not just to accumulate, but to compress time, buying back moments, buying freedom, buying experiences that remind them they are alive. They know that money without mortality, awareness is just numbers, but money with death in mind becomes fuel for urgency, creation, and legacy. Death is not the end, but the mirror that shows what truly matters. When you remember that every conversation might be the last, words take on weight. When you remember that every sunrise could be final, gratitude sharpens. And when you remember that even the mightiest fall, you stop chasing shadows and start seeking what endures. Death, feared by many, is the only teacher that never lies. Nothing compels like mystery. Human desire is never strongest when something is explained. It is strongest when something is withheld. Mystery is the magnet of the mind, pulling attention deeper with every unanswered question. What we cannot fully see, we cannot stop imagining. What we cannot fully know, we cannot stop chasing. This is why billionaires, rulers, and seducers alike wield mystery as one of their most potent tools. It compels more powerfully than logic, wealth, or even beauty. The brain is wired for completion. When a story is left unfinished, when a truth is hinted at but not revealed, the mind aches to resolve it. This is why cliffhangers keep us awake at night, why secrets seduce us, why hidden knowledge feels more valuable than truth shouted from rooftops. Mystery transforms the ordinary into the sacred, the small into the unforgettable, because the imagination always paints in colors brighter than reality. History is filled with empires built on mystery, religions shrouded rituals to make them divine, secret societies guarded symbols to ignite awe. Luxury brands thrive not because of what they show, but because of what they refuse to reveal. Even the most powerful individuals often cultivate mystery around their private lives, knowing that the less people see, the more they project their own fantasies onto them. Mystery compels because it awakens obsession. It keeps the mind circling endlessly, returning again and again to the thing just out of reach. Clarity satisfies, but mystery enslaves. He who reveals everything loses power, but he who cloaks himself in secrecy becomes irresistible. Nothing captures the human spirit so completely as the hunger to uncover what was never meant to be fully revealed. Ritual repetition is indistinguishable from magic. What the world calls magic is often nothing more than the relentless force of ritual repeated until results appear inevitable. Human beings are wired for patterns, and when an action is performed again and again with intention, it carves grooves into reality itself. To the undisciplined, this looks supernatural, as if the practitioner is blessed by unseen powers. In truth, it is the quiet consistency of ritual repetition that bends the world in their favor. The ancients cloaked this wisdom in ceremony, chants, offerings, daily rites, not because the acts themselves were mystical, but because repetition reshaped both mind and matter. Each cycle deepened belief, and belief fueled action until outcomes emerged that outsiders could only explain as divine. Billionaires follow the same principle in silence. Their rituals may not involve temples or altars, but they are sacred nonetheless. Waking at precise hours, studying the same numbers, reviewing visions daily, repeating habits until they etch themselves into destiny. Ritual repetition works because it programs the subconscious. What is repeated becomes identity, and identity dictates behavior. A single act may fade, but a repeated act becomes self, and the self creates results with mechanical certainty. To meditate, to write, to train, to study, done once, it is nothing. Done daily, it becomes unstoppable momentum. To outsiders, this persistence looks like luck or miracle. They see only the outcomes, not the ritual devotion behind them. But those who practice know the truth. Repetition is the most reliable form of magic. It conjures results from the unseen, transforming thought into matter, vision into empire, and intention into inevitability. The masses crave leaders who seem inevitable. People do not simply follow leaders. They surrender to those who appear destined. The masses crave certainty, and nothing feels safer than aligning with someone who seems unstoppable, inevitable, and larger than life. Logic may question, but emotion bows to inevitability. A leader who radiates the sense that their rise cannot be resisted becomes magnetic, drawing followers not by persuasion, but by the sheer gravity of their presence. History proves this pattern. Caesar marched not just with legions, but with the aura of destiny. Napoleon's soldiers believed he carried fate in his hands. Modern billionaires and politicians craft the same image, projecting inevitability until even skeptics feel resistance is pointless. Once a leader seems inevitable, people flock to them out of fear of being left behind, mistaking momentum for destiny. This illusion of inevitability is built carefully. It is maintained through consistency, confidence, and relentless vision. Small victories are amplified until they look like signs of fate. Doubts are buried beneath displays of power and conviction. A leader who never flinches convinces the world that resistance is futile, and soon reality bends to perception. The masses do not want to gamble on uncertainty. They want to feel the security of inevitability. They would rather follow the leader who seems unstoppable than risk being crushed opposing them. This is why true power lies not just in action, but in perception. Appear inevitable, and you will not need to demand loyalty. The masses will hand it to you willingly, desperate to stand on the side of destiny. True wealth is freedom from compulsion. Most people believe wealth is measured in numbers, dollars, assets, possessions stacked high enough to silence insecurity. But true wealth begins when nothing outside of you controls your choices. Freedom is not found in abundance alone, but in liberation from compulsion, the endless cravings, addictions, and desires that turn even billionaires into slaves of their appetites. To be rich in things but poor in self-control is to be imprisoned by golden chains. Compulsion is the silent thief of freedom. The man who cannot stop checking his phone is no freer than the beggar chained by hunger. The woman who cannot rest without status or validation is bound just as tightly as the one who cannot eat without scraps. Billionaires who endure do so not by satisfying every whim, but by mastering them. Their power comes from focus, from choosing what matters and discarding the rest. True wealth lies in choice, the ability to act, not react, to wake without being driven by fear, to eat without being ruled by appetite, to build without needing approval. When nothing compels you, you become untouchable because the world has no hooks to drag you where it wants. This is why the ancients saw ascetics as rich. Though they owned nothing, their lack of compulsion gave them a sovereignty kings envied. The wealthy who understand this principle are not those who spend endlessly, but those who own themselves fully. Money expands freedom, but only when compulsion has been mastered. Otherwise, every possession is just another chain. True wealth begins the moment you are no longer ruled by anything but your own will. History hides its greatest truths in plain sight. The most powerful truths are never buried deep. They are left in the open, disguised as common knowledge, overlooked because they seem too obvious to matter. History does not conceal its secrets in shadows. It places them in plain sight, knowing the masses will walk past without noticing. The powerful, however, train their eyes to see what others ignore, and in doing so, they inherit knowledge that shapes empires. Ancient monuments rise from deserts and jungles, their alignments with stars and solstices dismissed as coincidence by those unwilling to see the genius encoded within. Sacred texts repeat parables so simple that children can recite them, yet hidden in the repetition are patterns of governance, finance, and human psychology. Even in modern times, cycles of war, collapse, and renewal are taught in every school, but few connect them to the future, though the blueprint is written clearly in the past. Billionaires and strategists exploit this blindness. They study history not as dusty records, but as instruction manuals. They see how power consolidates, how markets move, how crowds are manipulated, all revealed plainly in centuries of repetition. What seems like new chaos is only an old truth returning, ignored by those who never bothered to notice. The mind resists plain truth because it craves novelty. The eyes glaze over what feels ordinary, but the wise pierce through this illusion, recognizing that the secrets of power are not hidden at all. They are shouted across centuries, waiting for someone disciplined enough to listen. History is an open book, but only those who read between its ordinary lines uncover its extraordinary truths. Fewer words, stronger impact. Power is not measured by the quantity of words, but by their weight. The masses chatter endlessly, bleeding their influence dry through constant explanation, gossip, and noise. But the powerful understand that every word either strengthens or weakens their presence. Speech is like currency. Spend too much and it becomes cheap. But when given sparingly, each word becomes priceless. Silence wrapped around carefully chosen words turns them into weapons, commands, or revelations that strike deeper than entire speeches. Ancient rulers mastered this law. Their decrees were short, carved into stone, yet they shaped civilizations for centuries. Generals on the battlefield issued few words, but each carried the force of life and death. Sages spoke in proverbs, leaving their listeners haunted by a single sentence that echoed louder than 1,000 explanations. The impact came not from length but from precision. Billionaires, leaders, and negotiators wield the same weapon. In meetings, they do not waste breath. They pause, observe, and speak only when their words can tilt the room. A single statement from them can move markets, inspire armies of employees, or terrify rivals. Their restraint gives their words gravity, while the endless talk of others evaporates into nothing. Fewer words carry stronger impact because they force people to lean in, to fill the silence with their own imagination, to weigh the meaning more heavily than if it were spelled out. Power is not in explaining everything, it is in saying just enough. The tongue that speaks less is sharper, and its cut is remembered long after the noise of chatter fades. Hidden practices sustain visible empires. Every great empire, every towering fortune, every figure who seems untouchable is supported by what the public never sees. The visible is always a performance, a carefully constructed facade of power, wealth, and brilliance. But beneath that surface are hidden practices, disciplines, rituals, and secrets that quietly sustain the empire. The crowd marvels at the castle, blind to the foundation buried beneath the earth. Billionaires and rulers rarely reveal these practices. They may show their companies, their brands, their lifestyles, but not the unseen routines that make them possible. These are the private rituals at dawn, the relentless study behind closed doors, the networks cultivated in silence, the sacrifices no one applauds. To outsiders, success looks effortless. To insiders, it is built upon invisible structures of discipline and control. Hidden practices also extend into the darker arts of influence, information withheld, alliances disguised, negotiations conducted in whispers. What sustains an empire is rarely what the masses imagine. It is not chance, nor luck, nor even brilliance alone. It is the deliberate cultivation of habits and systems no one else is disciplined enough to maintain. The tragedy is that most people idolize the visible while ignoring the invisible. They copy the image, not the foundation. They mimic the results, not the process, and so they fail. The powerful, however, know that what is unseen is always more important than what is displayed. Hidden practices are the roots that keep the tree standing when storms come. Without them, even the grandest empire eventually collapses into dust. The secret to persuasion lies in suggestion, not command. The human spirit resists being ordered, but it yields effortlessly to what feels like its own choice. This is why true persuasion is never about command. It is about suggestion, planting thoughts so subtly that people believe they were born in their own minds. Masters of influence have always known this. Kings, billionaires, advertisers, and manipulators. They do not demand obedience. They shape desires until compliance feels natural, inevitable, even self-chosen. Suggestion works because it bypasses resistance. When someone hears a command, their pride awakens, their ego rebels, their defenses rise. But when the same idea is whispered indirectly, framed as a possibility, or hinted through story, the mind accepts it without a fight. The suggestion burrows deep, grows quietly, and one day the person acts on it, convinced it was their decision all along. That is the essence of power, control without force. History is littered with examples. Prophets used parables instead of edicts. Leaders use symbols instead of threats. Billionaires shape markets by suggestion, seeding belief that their product is essential, never needing to shout it outright. Even in personal relationships, suggestion seduces more deeply than demand. A look, a pause, a carefully chosen phrase can move someone further than 100 commands ever could. This is why persuasion belongs to the subtle, not the loud. A command may win a battle, but suggestion wins loyalty. A command may enforce action, but suggestion implants desire. Those who master suggestion no longer need to push the world. It moves willingly in the direction they choose, believing it arrived there by its own will. Markets move on belief, not reality. The illusion of markets is that they are governed by numbers, data, and cold logic. In truth, they are ruled by belief, by the collective imagination, fear, and greed of human beings. Prices rise not because of reality, but because enough people believe they will rise. Fortunes collapse not because of intrinsic value, but because belief evaporates like smoke. Billionaires and market titans know this secret well. Reality is slow, but belief moves instantly, and whoever controls belief controls the market. History proves this again and again. Tulip bulbs once sold for the price of mansions, not because they were rare, but because the crowd believed they were treasure. Entire economies have boomed on promises of gold, oil, or technology that never materialize. Cryptocurrencies skyrocketed not from intrinsic value, but from faith in the story surrounding them. Reality always lags, but belief can inflate, collapse, and resurrect markets overnight. This is why stories matter more than statistics. A visionary CEO who inspires belief can lift a company's valuation beyond logic. A rumor whispered in fear can erase billions in hours. Analysts may chart graphs, but the real market movers are narratives, symbols, and emotions, the invisible currents that sway the crowd's faith. Masters of markets do not merely trade assets. They trade belief. They seed stories, stir excitement, sow fear, and ride the tidal waves of collective psychology. The masses think they are investing in reality. In truth, they are investing in dreams, illusions, and the fragile scaffolding of faith. Markets are mirrors, not measuring sticks, and it is belief, not reality, that makes them dance.